What he wears is none of your damn business. Liam, let's be real. If you weren't a Hamilton, do you think I ever would have been your girlfriend? You've been kicked out of the family. You really think I'm going to stick around? Don't make me laugh. The handbag Chad just bought me is worth more than you'll make in a year. You think you're even worthy of me? Get lost. And don't ever show your face around me again. You're disgusting. Liam stepped out of the cramped apartment building, fumbling to light a cigarette. It was spring, but beads of sweat dotted his forehead. 15 years ago, the Hamiltons' only son, Jason, had gone missing. Liam, a 7-year-old in foster care who happened to be the same height, was taken in to fill the void. For 15 years, he had been the perfect son, diligent, obedient, and a stellar student. His natural aptitude had gotten him into Columbia, and after graduating, he'd taken the reins of Hamilton Industries. In just 2 years, he had propelled the family company into one of New York City's top 100 private firms. But the moment the real Jason Hamilton returned, Liam, the replacement, was cast aside. His 3 adoptive sisters grew wary and distant. Control of the company was transferred entirely to Jason's name. He didn't even want their money. The Hamiltons had raised him, and he'd repaid that debt with his hard work. What happened to the company now was none of his concern. Still, he couldn't believe that 15 years of dedication hadn't earned him a shred of trust. You'd show more compassion to a stray dog. They had wrung him dry and then tossed him out with a cold, ruthless finality. What he hadn't expected was that his girlfriend of 3 years had only been with him for the Hamilton name. The pain had finally given way to a dull, chilling numbness. For 3 years, he had given Jessica everything she'd ever wanted, anything he could afford. And it was all a lie. Liam took a drag from the cigarette and choked, a dry cough racking his chest. He threw the butt to the ground and crushed it under his shoe. Staring at the mangled filter, he let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh. Of course, some things just weren't meant for him, no matter how hard he tried. Boom! A clap of thunder startled him. It was about to rain. In 2 days, his entire life had been upended. Was the universe itself trying to kick him while he was down? He sighed, the sound lost in the wind, and hurried away from the apartment complex. It didn't matter anymore. When he'd walked out of the Hamilton mansion, his past was wiped clean. For the first time, he was free. All those years leading the company, navigating the treacherous world of corporate warfare, had left him exhausted. For the rest of his life, he figured he'd find a simple job as a security guard. Just coast, exist, and wait for the end. He'd already ridden the highs and lows. Maybe just lying flat was the most comfortable way to live. He was still muttering to himself when the sky opened up. The downpour was torrential, mixed with the roar of thunder. Head down against the deluge, he cut through a narrow back alley. And that's when he heard it, a strange, muffled whimper from the dark corner up ahead. NGH. It was followed by a man's sleazy chuckle. Looks like Tiffany wasn't lying. That stuff works fast. Cassandra Thorne? See? Even God is on my side. In a storm this bad, who do you think is going to hear you scream for help? A kidnapping? Liam's senses went on high alert. He peered around the corner of the brick wall. Next to a dumpster at the end of the alley sat a black car, its window wide open. Through the sheets of rain, he could make out the form of a woman slumped over the open window, her hair a mess, her face obscured. Behind her, a slimy-looking young man was reaching for her. The next second, the woman's head tilted. Through a gap in her scattered hair, her eyes, sharp and fierce, locked directly onto his. Instantaneously, a chill shot up Liam's spine. It was as if that gaze had pierced straight through him. He froze, rooted to the spot, his mind blank. He recognized the car. It was a vintage black Bentley, a rare sight even in New York. You didn't need to be a genius to know that whoever owned a car like that was not someone to be trifled with. After everything that had happened, the last thing Liam wanted was to get involved in someone else's mess. He averted his eyes, breaking contact with that desperate, pleading gaze. Forget it. Just pretend you didn't see anything. Liam shoved his hands in his pockets and, feigning indifference, turned to walk away. But in the next instant, crack, a sound like a firecracker exploded, perfectly masked by a simultaneous clap of thunder. In this deserted alley, drowned out by the storm, the noise went unnoticed. But Liam, standing just yards away, heard it clearly. It was a gunshot. He couldn't have been mistaken. He froze for a second, his mind screaming at him to keep walking, to pretend he hadn't heard. But then he felt something cold and hard press into the small of his back. "Get me out of here." The voice was a raw whisper, as if forced through clenched teeth. Liam's whole body went rigid. He didn't need to look. It was a gun. He realized, with a sickening lurch in his stomach, what must have happened to the man in the car. "Where?" he asked, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Anywhere. Just somewhere with no people." The woman's voice was cold, and this time, laced with an impatient edge. She jabbed the gun harder into his back. Now, Liam gritted his teeth. Okay, he said, his voice tight. I know an abandoned warehouse nearby. No one ever goes there. Just don't do anything stupid. I'll take you. He took a deep breath and started walking. The gun barrel felt like it was fused to his spine, pressing into him with every step until they reached the warehouse. After locking the heavy, rusted door behind them, Liam pointed to a dilapidated sofa in the corner, barely visible in the gloom. You can. Rest here. I can call the police for you. But the woman behind him didn't seem to hear. The gun was still aimed at him, a silent, deadly threat. You, over there, to stay alive. Liam had no choice but to obey. As he approached the sofa, her command came again, sharp and imperious. Take off your jacket. Put on the sofa. He did as he was told. Once it was done, he thought the ordeal might finally be over. He was wrong. Sit down, she ordered. Liam fell silent. Was he a hostage now? His luck had truly hit rock bottom. But she had the gun, so he had no choice. As he turned to sit, another flash of lightning illuminated the cavernous space. For a split second, Liam finally saw her face. It was breathtaking. She wore a red evening gown that clung to her stunning figure. In her hand, she held a small, exquisite gold-plated pistol. Her eyes, however, were hazy, unfocused. Liam sucked in a sharp breath. The next thing he knew, an intoxicating scent of roses filled the air. Before he could process it, the woman threw herself at him, collapsing into his arms. You smell so good, she murmured, her voice a drug-laced whisper. The woman was out of her mind. Her hands and mouth moved over him, restless and hungry, her soft moans plucking at his nerves like a deranged melody. Every touch sent a jolt through him. He tensed, every muscle in his body screaming. The gun in her hand kept him from moving. Hey, just try to hold on, he stammered, his voice strained. I can call an ambulance. He remembered the man's words about her being drugged, but she gave him no chance to get up. Her slender arms, surprisingly strong, wrapped around him like steel bands, pinning him in place. She whimpered, pressing herself against him as if he were a lifeline. Look, miss, seriously, let me call for help. This isn't right. We don't even know each other. He pleaded, his mind racing, trying to figure out how to get the gun away from her. She acted as if she couldn't hear him, her free hand fumbling with the buttons of his shirt. Boom! Another crash of thunder. A flash of lightning lit up his body. His shirt was open, revealing his toned, tanned skin and the hard lines of his chest. The faint scent of his sweat mingled with his natural musk, a heady combination that filled her senses. The drug, already coursing through her veins, kicked into overdrive. A spiderweb of red appeared in her cold eyes. Unable to control herself, her hand trembled around the pistol. With the last shred of her sanity, she raised the gun and brought the butt of it down hard against the back of his head. Crack! Liam didn't even have time to cry out. A sharp, explosive pain shot through his skull. His vision went black, the last sliver of light vanishing into nothingness. Her consciousness was completely consumed by the drug. In the total darkness, she greedily fell upon the one thing that brought her a wave of cool relief. When he came to, the dangerously alluring woman was gone. In her place stood another woman, dressed head to toe in black. She pushed a pair of glasses up the bridge of her nose and gave a slight nod. Before Liam could make sense of anything, two large, imposing men were walking toward him. The sudden movement sent a fresh wave of agony through his head, as if he'd been hit by a truck. His consciousness swam. He felt the men lift him onto a stretcher. His body felt strangely refreshed, almost comfortable, except for his lower half, which felt exposed, covered only by a jacket. His head throbbed. Through a blurry haze, he saw a dark, crimson stain on the sofa cushions. And then, he knew nothing more. Ugh. This time, when he woke up, it felt like he'd slept for an eternity. Heavy drapes blocked out the light in a lavish, palatial bedroom. Liam blinked, his eyes slowly taking in the surroundings. He was lying on an incredibly soft, high-end mattress. His gaze drifted up to the impossibly high ceiling, where a massive, ornate chandelier made of pure gold hung. Sheer, gauzy curtains were draped from above, tied back elegantly. Where the hell was he? Liam tried to lift a hand to rub his eyes, but it was jerked to a stop. His hands were bound by a silver chain, shackled to the foot of the bed. Shit! He cursed under his breath, panic finally setting in. He tugged, but the only result was the clinking of metal against metal. The next second, the heavy bedroom door creaked open. The sharp click-clack of high heels on marble echoed across the floor, slow yet deliberate, coming closer. Through the veil of the bed curtains, he saw the silhouette of a woman in a tight black dress, her figure flawless. Above a graceful, swan-like neck was the same stunning face he'd seen for only a moment. She stopped at the edge of the bed, her nearly 10-centimeter heels giving her an imposing height. She looked down at him, her beautiful, almond-shaped eyes narrowed into a predatory squint. "Miss you?" His voice came out as a dry rasp. His throat was raw from sleeping so long, without water, and the pain forced him to stop. Above him, the woman glanced down with an air of cold disdain. "You're awake." Liam struggled, using his chained arms to push himself into a sitting position. He forced himself to remain calm. He had a pretty good idea of where he was, her home. After being thrown out by the Hamiltons, he'd already lined up a security job. He was supposed to start in a few days. He had no idea how he'd ended up in this mess, but he needed to get out of this place fast. This woman was a psycho, chaining him to a bed like some kind of animal. Recalling the vintage Bentley, the opulent bedroom, and the golden pistol, he knew it was best not to provoke her. He took a deep breath. "Miss, can you please tell me where my phone is? It's getting late. I should get going." He was trying to signal that he would pretend nothing had happened, that he didn't know a thing. But the woman seemed to ignore him. She reached out and swept the curtain aside. With nothing between them, their eyes met. Her face was like a sculpture carved from jade, exquisite and cold. Her full red lips were pressed into a firm line, her eyes as frosty as a winter morning. Liam prided himself on having seen his fair share of beautiful women. His 3 non-biological sisters were stunning, and his ex, Jessica, had been the campus queen. But in front of this woman, they were nothing more than handmaidens. He drew in a sharp breath, his mind reeling. He couldn't believe that last night he and she, HSS. Before he could recover from the shock, her long, slender fingers seized his chin. The grip was shockingly strong, forcing his head up to meet her gaze. Her eyes were so cold they could steal the breath from his lungs. She toyed with the chain on his wrist, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. "What's the matter? After all that, you still think you can just walk away?" A wave of humiliation washed over him. A grown man being toyed with like this. He hadn't seen the gun, so he didn't dare fight back too hard. He gritted his teeth. "Miss, just give me back my phone. I'll act like yesterday never happened. I've never even met you." He thought he'd made his position perfectly clear. His lips were sealed, but his words seemed to ignite her anger. Her cold eyes blazed with a sudden fire. Her fingers tightened on his chin, and with a sudden, brutal force, she slammed the back of his head against the headboard. Then, her voice, laced with ice, cut through the air. "Am I not worth remembering? Ugh, she's a goddamn lunatic." Liam bit down hard on his back teeth, the pain sharp and searing. He'd always kept himself in shape at the gym, but he was weak from lack of food. "I swear, I won't tell anyone what happened yesterday," he said, his voice rising with desperation. "Damn it." She grabbed the collar of his tattered shirt, her voice a low, dangerous snarl. "Are you that desperate to be rid of me?" The fabric pulled tight against his neck, and Liam's own anger flared. "I don't even know you. Aren't you afraid I'll call the cops?" At that, the woman laughed. A cold, chilling sound. "The cops." She looked down at him, her red lips curling into a smirk as the fire in her eyes died down. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Cassandra Thorne. The name flashed through his mind. He'd heard it that night in the alley, a name whispered in the rain. All he could connect it to was the Thorne family of New York, a clan so powerful and mysterious that he'd only ever heard whispers of them at the highest level galas he'd attended while working for the Hamiltons. He knew nothing about them, not even who was currently in charge. She was testing him, testing to see if he'd recognized her, and if he'd keep his mouth shut. Liam's eyes flickered. He shook his head slowly, his voice a low murmur. "Who you are has nothing to do with me. I don't want to know." His detached response seemed to displease her. She smiled, a playful, almost cruel glint in her eyes as she leaned in closer. "If you don't know, then I'll tell you." She tugged his collar again, forcing him to meet her gaze. "Remember my name. It's Cassandra Thorne." She paused, then added a taunting little flourish. "Go on, think about it. How many families in New York have a name Thorne? The Thorne family, the one that was rumored to hold half the country in its grasp, a mysterious dynasty that could move markets and governments with a single phone call." A flicker of shock crossed Liam's face. "So you do know." Her eyes instantly turned sharp and hostile. The jig was up. Liam slumped back, a wave of resignation washing over him. "So what if I do? Who you are doesn't matter to me. Like I said, yesterday I was just walking home and got caught in the rain. I've never seen you before in my life." Never seen her. Cassandra's fury was well and truly lit. Last night, she had been set up, drugged, and cornered. In her most helpless moment, this man had appeared like a potential savior. But he just turned his back and walked away. It was only by a stroke of luck. The feel of her pistol in her purse, the cold rain shocking her back to some semblance of clarity, that she had escaped. But then the drug had taken over completely, forcing her to, with a complete stranger, in a filthy, abandoned warehouse she wouldn't have set foot in a million years. Afterward, when she finally got a clear look at him, she had felt a sliver of relief. He was handsome, with strong features that were, at least, pleasing to her eye. She had only wanted to ask him one thing: why didn't you help me? But now, she realized he knew who she was from the start. And even now, he was doing everything in his power to distance himself from her. Her, the heiress of the Thorne dynasty? Was she that repulsive to him? Her entire life, no one had ever dared to ignore her. This man, he was different. Very well. A slow, dangerous smile spread across her lips as she released his collar. What are you doing? Liam watched her, his eyes wide with disbelief. Cassandra's eyes narrowed as her hand began to move. You have a nice body. An understatement, she thought. It's exquisite. That was it. Liam was done being passive. He was a man, and he'd had a girlfriend before, but even Jessica had always been shy and reserved with him. He believed that this kind of thing required consent, a shared desire. He was still furious about what happened yesterday, being dragged into this mess. But waking up, he had tried to let it go. He had nothing left to lose. He'd never experienced anything like this, and the woman was a goddess. In a twisted way, he hadn't lost out. But for it to be over, and now for this to happen again, in this way, had she no shame? Hearing his protest, Cassandra's movements didn't stop. A laugh escaped her lips, devoid of warmth. You're the first person who's ever dared to defy me. Sensing the change in his body, the resistance, Cassandra's smile deepened. Her hand slid lower, her eyes darkening with a predatory gleam. I'm going to make sure you remember me until the day you die. He had slept for so long he was starting to lose track of whether he was alive or dead. It felt like at least 2 days since he'd had a drop of water. His lips were as cracked and dry as a desert floor. Even the slightest movement threatened to split them open. His throat was so raw he couldn't make sound. He instinctively went to rub his eyes, and his right hand moved freely to his face. He jolted, realizing the chains were gone. They had been removed at some point while he slept. A surge of relief washed over him. He scrambled out of bed, his body protesting from hunger, and began to search the room. The damn woman was gone. Liam breathed a sigh of relief and, running on fumes, started looking for a phone or any way to contact the outside world. But the bedroom was massive, and every cabinet and drawer was locked. After 10 minutes of frantic searching, he found nothing. On the bedside table, however, sat a neatly folded set of clean pajamas. She really thinks of everything, doesn't she? Liam looked down at his own clothes, now torn and filthy, and changed into the fresh set. He had to find a way out of here, and fast. After years in the business world, he knew that the more powerful the family, the more dangerous their secrets. And this woman was part of that family. He had been tired for 18 years. 18 years of pretending to be someone else's son, of trying to please everyone, only to be thrown out like trash. The one person he thought he could be himself with, his girlfriend, had only been using him for his status. He was done playing the game. For the rest of his life, he just wanted to be himself, to do what he wanted, not be someone else's puppet. He took a deep breath and pulled open the heavy bedroom door. Instantly, a vast, opulent living room spread out before him. It mirrored the bedroom's palatial style, dripping with gold accents. Even the candelabras on the tables were solid gold. The sheer extravagance was suffocating. But Liam was immune to it now. Knowing she was a Thorne, this level of luxury seemed almost pedestrian for her family. He made his way down the long, curving staircase. At the bottom, he finally saw another person. "Sir, you're awake." A woman in a maid's uniform, holding a tray with an ornate tea set, smiled at him. She looked like the head housekeeper. Liam was too thirsty to respond. He walked straight to the tray, picked up a cup, and downed the tea in one gulp. As the liquid soothed his raw throat, he finally felt grounded, like he was back in his own body. He was alive. "Sir, please, drink slowly. There's more," the housekeeper, Maria, said, quickly refilling his cup. It was time for more. Liam set the cup down, his voice urgent. "Hello, can I borrow your phone?" At his question, Maria's eyes flickered. She completely ignored his request and walked toward the grand hall. "Dinner is ready, sir. You may begin whenever you like." "Dinner?" Liam took a few steps forward and saw it. a long, silver dining table laden with an incredible array of dishes, each one a miniature work of art. The aroma wafted over, and after 2 days of starvation, Liam's eyes glazed over. His stomach growled shamelessly. He was so hungry he found himself drifting toward the table, licking his lips and swallowing hard. It smelled incredible. Every scent was a direct assault on his willpower. Seeing him standing there, Maria set down the tea service and smiled. Miss Thorne left instructions. She has business tonight and will be back late. You don't need to wait for her. Her Royal Highness, he thought bitterly. As if I'd wait for her. His reason returned slightly. Just walking out wasn't an option. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he'd already scanned the grounds. It was a massive, manicured garden that stretched as far as he could see, with no exit in sight. He needed a car, and as hungry as he was now, he'd probably starve to death on the way if he tried to walk. A few bites to get his strength back couldn't hurt. With that, Liam sat down at the table. He was too hungry to care if the food was poisoned. He began to eat, foregoing all manners and devouring everything in sight. He was starving. If it weren't for the expensive, clean pajamas he was wearing, he would have looked like a homeless man who hadn't eaten in weeks. Maria cleared away the plates and bones, a satisfied smile on her face as she watched him. Liam practically cleared the table, sampling every one of the dozen or so dishes. Thanks to his dedicated gym routine, his strength began to return as he ate. Wiping his mouth, he finally felt human again. A man with an appetite like yours must be very strong, Maria remarked, pleased as she collected the last of the empty dishes. Liam let out a small burp and patted his stomach, getting back to the matter at hand. Excuse me, could I borrow your phone? I just need to make one call. Maria's expression shifted subtly. Again, she acted as if she hadn't heard him. Is there something you require, sir? If you tell me, I can arrange it for you. Liam's face fell. He knew then that she had no intention of letting him contact the outside world. He tried a different tack. Look, I don't know your boss. She brought me here yesterday. Just let me use your phone for a minute. That's all I'm asking. Maria just smiled and shook her head. Sir, Miss Thorne has given instructions. You will be living here from now on. If you need anything, you only need to tell me. It was clear she wasn't going to help him. Arguing was pointless. She was her employee. He was a stranger. Why would she side with him? Liam stood up and headed for the door. Fine, he said, his voice flat. In that case, I'll just see myself out. Maria didn't seem worried. She simply called out after him, a gentle reminder in her tone. Sir, you are currently at the Thorne family's private estate. There is nothing but wilderness for miles around. Private estate. Liam suddenly remembered hearing whispers of a mysterious place, Black Lake Manor. He'd been to many exclusive locations, but Black Lake Manor was a legend. Never open to the public, its exact location a closely guarded secret. Out here, without a car, getting out was impossible, and he didn't even know which way to go. Besides, if they wouldn't even let him use a phone, he was sure the gates would be guarded. Liam thought of the golden pistol in Cassandra Thorne's hand. Damn it. Without her permission, he really wasn't going anywhere. Sir, we have wonderful food and drink here, Maria said, her tone placid. Anything you need, just tell me, and I will prepare it for you. She then shifted gears, a warm, almost conspiratorial smile spreading across her face as she approached him. Sir, I've watched the young miss grow up. She has never brought a man home before. You are the first. Do you know how many people would kill for such an honor? Maria looked Liam up and down, her satisfaction growing by the second. Her mistress had excellent taste. A man with a healthy appetite was a good sign. He had polished off a feast meant for a small army, and now, standing tall, he radiated vitality. He was handsome, clean-cut, and well-built. What more could one ask for? He and her miss would look perfect together. Maria couldn't hide her beaming approval. Liam, oblivious to her matchmaking thoughts, was about to explode. Honor. The word was practically ripped from between his clenched teeth. Yes, of course, Maria chirped. Sir, the miss will likely be back very late tonight. You should go upstairs and rest. With that, she turned to clear the table, leaving him standing there. The entire time, he hadn't seen a single other soul in the house. He glanced at the inky blackness outside. For now, going upstairs was his only option. Without Cassandra Thorne say so, he wasn't leaving. He clenched his fists and headed for the stairs. He'd already noted the villa's layout. The main staircase led only to the second floor. At the landing, there was an elevator, but it required a key card. No surprise there. This was Black Lake Manor. After all, there were probably more floors above. His current location, the second floor, was laid out much like the first, except it contained only one room, the bedroom where he had woken up. He felt sticky with sweat just from eating. He opened the closet and saw a spare set of pajamas. Well, since I'm stuck here, might as well take a shower. Liam used the en-suite bathroom, taking a long, hot shower that washed away some of his tension. He changed into a fresh set of gray silk pajamas. Just as he stepped out of the bathroom, he heard the purr of an engine from downstairs. Peering through the second-floor living area's large window, he saw a woman in a white blouse and a tight black skirt get out of a car and hurry to open the back door. A moment later, a long, slender leg emerged, shod in a black high heel with a telltale red sole. It was Cassandra. She really was beautiful. Liam couldn't help but admit it. The woman who had opened the door for her was attractive enough, but the moment Cassandra appeared, the assistant faded into the background, becoming a mere NPC in her world. If only she wasn't a complete psychopath. He watched Cassandra say something to the woman, who nodded, got into the driver's seat, and drove away. Cassandra then walked toward the front door and disappeared from his view. She was coming up. He heard the sound of her heels on the staircase, the clicks growing louder, closer. He decided he needed to talk to her, to reason with her. They were both human. Surely if he was sincere enough, she wouldn't make things too difficult. Soon, the door to the second-floor living area opened, and Cassandra stepped inside. She was wearing another outfit he hadn't seen before, a white dress with cutouts at the waist and a high slit up the side. Her thick hair was swept up in an elegant updo, accented by a pair of dazzling diamond earrings. Her lips were painted a fiery red. She was the epitome of the cool, bewitching Ice Queen. Her presence was so powerful it seemed to suck the air out of the room. She just stood there, and the world seemed to freeze around her. Her gaze landed on Liam, who was sitting on the sofa. She looked him up and down, a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. She sniffed the air slightly, and then narrowed her eyes. "You showered?" she asked. "Whether I showered or not is none of your damn business." Liam wanted to scream, but he knew he needed to negotiate his freedom. He took a deep breath to calm his racing heart. "What will it take for you to let me go?" Cassandra tossed her purse onto a console table by the door and shot him a contemptuous look. "Did you already forget what I said yesterday?" She walked toward him, her movements fluid and predatory. She stopped right in front of him and suddenly leaned down, bending at the waist. The scent of roses flooded his senses again. Her stunning face, magnified and impossibly close, made his breath catch in his throat. Her skin was flawless, but her almond-shaped eyes glinted with a cold light. And those lips, red as fire. His gaze drifted lower, down her neck where he could see. His heart skipped a beat. Her voice, cool and imperious, broke the spell. "You can forget it." Jolted by her words, Liam snapped back to reality. He was a man, for God's sake. He shot his hands up, trying to push her away. But as he moved, he felt a sharp tug. He looked down and realized that somehow she had. So that was it. A honey trap. He finally saw them. 2 metal chains hidden in the crevices of the sofa cushions. Damn it. You're a lunatic." Cassandra's eyes darkened. "Am I not taking good care of you? Is that why you're so desperate to leave?" "It has nothing to do with that. I told you I'm not interested in you, and I swear I won't say a word about what happened between us." But he had no idea that the more he pushed her away, the more intrigued she became. She pulled something out of the coffee table drawer. A cold smile touched her lips. "It doesn't matter." Liam watched as her pale fingers stroked the object, her eyes turning hard as ice. He suddenly felt like an idiot. He gave up. He let his body go limp, slumping back against the sofa cushions. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice flat with defeat. Seeing his sudden compliance, the corners of Cassandra's lips curled into a cold, triumphant smile. She looked down at him, her gaze imperious. "It's simple," she said, her voice laced with absolute authority. "From now on, you will live here. You will be my little canary." Liam's eyes flew open. Did she know what she was saying? Cassandra's lips curved into a smirk. "Anything you want, I can give you." "You." Liam was speechless. As much as he hated it, she had a point. Here, he truly would want for nothing. The Thorne family's power was absolute. Seeing Liam fall into silent contemplation, sensing his resolve waver, Cassandra's eyes glinted. She sweetened the deal. "Whatever you desire, I can make it happen with a wave of my hand." She could give him anything, but it would always be at her discretion. His entire existence would be dictated by her whims. For 15 years, he had lived as someone else's substitute. Even his own girlfriend had betrayed him. On the surface, he was the brilliant heir to the Hamilton fortune with the campus queen on his arm. But underneath, his life had been a constant performance of accommodation and appeasement, only to be thrown away like trash. Liam's thoughts churned. From a moment he walked out of the Hamilton's mansion, he had sworn that for the rest of his life, he would live only for himself. He would never be a puppet again. He would never be at someone else's mercy. A cold smile touched Liam's lips. His voice was firm. Impossible. Damn him. This man was just too interesting. An undeniable flame of sadistic pleasure ignited in Cassandra's eyes. She had never met anyone who would refuse a life of such luxury. His desperate resistance, every last bit of it, was a fatal attraction for her. Cassandra's heart began to pound, her breathing quickening with excitement. I really am curious, she murmured thoughtfully. Suddenly, her expression shifted. Her eyes flashed with a cruel light as she raised the thin leather whip she'd been holding and brought it down across his chest. Crack! You psycho! Liam roared, the chains on his wrists rattling against the sofa. You dare curse me? The sight of the red welt blooming on his skin only seemed to excite Cassandra more, pushing her further into a frenzy. She was beyond reason. Liam clenched his jaw and squeezed his eyes shut. He stopped yelling. He stopped cursing. He lay on the sofa, perfectly still. How boring. The excitement in Cassandra's eyes vanished as quickly as it had appeared. She shot Liam a cool, dismissive glance, then turned away, all interest lost. Hearing the sound of her heels retreating, Liam cracked his eyes open just enough to watch her. He saw her stop at the console table, take out her phone, and make a call. Maria, send Evelyn up. She hung up and left the second floor without a backward glance. Liam was in so much pain, he felt detached from his own body. He couldn't even feel his own head. Before, if something like this had happened, he could have held on. His 3 sisters, or even his colleagues at the company, would have called the police if he didn't show up for work. But that was 3 days ago. He had signed over the company, submitted his resignation, and even left them a business plan for the next quarter. He had no close friends. He had always been alone. And Jessica? Forget it. She was probably off living it up with her rich new boyfriend, Chad. He didn't even have parents. Who could he count on? Beyond this manor, there wasn't a single person in the world who would be looking for him. Liam's heart turned to ash. He heard another set of footsteps on the stairs, faster and more hurried than Cassandra's. It must be the woman from the phone, Evelyn. The door opened, and Liam slowly opened his eyes. A woman in a sharp white pantsuit, carrying a medical case, walked toward him. Well, look at you. Still conscious, Evelyn said, her tone light. She placed her medical case on the coffee table and opened it with a cheerful smile. Liam watched in silence as she took out gauze, alcohol, iodine, and a syringe. She expertly snapped open a glass ampoule with her thumbnail, drew the liquid into the syringe, and then injected it into his arm. Liam didn't bother to resist, just watch her work. After the injection, Evelyn began to examine the whip mark on his chest. A hint of surprise flickered in her eyes. She poured alcohol onto a gauze pad. You're really something, she commented. I've never seen the mist this angry before. With the medicine prepared, she pulled at the collar of his pajamas. Brace yourself. This is going to sting. Whatever. What could possibly be worse than the soul-crushing despair he was already feeling? Seeing Liam's silence, Evelyn simply pressed the medicated gauze to the wound. The pained outcry she expected never came. A look of genuine shock crossed her face. You got a high pain tolerance, don't you? How could it not hurt? Liam felt like he was grinding his back teeth to dust. But was this really the time to complain? After the intense, searing pain subsided, all that was left was the dull ache of the wound being cleaned and bandaged. He'd survived the worst of it. The rest was negligible. As she worked, busily wrapping the bandage around his chest, Liam's dry lips moved. He had to ask, can you help me get out of here? Evelyn's hands paused. She looked at him surprised. You want to leave? Yes. Seeing someone who would actually talk to him, Liam's deadened heart flickered back to life. I don't want to be here, he said urgently. If you can help me leave, I'll repay you with everything I have. He was done hoping for a stranger's kindness. He was negotiating, offering the last thing of value he possessed in exchange for a chance at freedom. But Evelyn just let out a small laugh. Your abilities? Don't be ridiculous. You think you have more to offer than my mistress? Liam was silenced. It was true. He had nothing. How could he possibly compare to the heiress of the Thorne family? Seeing his silence, Evelyn asked, why are you so desperate to leave? Do you have any idea how many men would kill to be in your position? She picked up a fresh roll of gauze and began to wrap it. If I were you, I'd just do as she says. To be frank, I've never seen the miss bring a man home before. You have no idea how lucky you are. Lucky? Liam couldn't take it anymore. So, being noticed by Cassandra Thorne was supposed to be a blessing? It was a blessing he could do without. I'm just a normal person. I just want a quiet life. I don't want anything to do with her. Evelyn looked at him as if he'd said the most ridiculous thing in the world, her hand trembling as she wrapped the gauze. Do you know that my mistress could make all of New York City tremble with a wave of her hand? All that power and wealth, and you don't want it? Ever since she'd started working for her, Evelyn had wondered what kind of man could possibly be worthy of a woman as brilliant, beautiful, and fearsome as her mistress. A few days ago, when she'd heard that the miss had brought a man home, she'd been in a state of shock. After meeting him, she had to admit he was handsome and well-built, but she still felt he was lacking. And now, here he was, looking completely broken, whining about wanting to leave. Was he out his mind? I'm not interested in money. Liam finally snapped. No amount of money was worth his peace of mind. All he wanted was a quiet place to live, a home of his own, to be free from the control of others, to truly be himself and do whatever he wanted. Evelyn stared at him as if he were an idiot. She tore the gauze and secured it with medical tape. He's probably just overwhelmed, she thought. He said he was a normal guy. Seeing this level of luxury for the first time must be a shock. Some people were like that. Their pride couldn't handle it. As a doctor, Evelyn had studied some psychology. People like him, once they got used to it, would start to enjoy it. Then they become obsessed, and in the end, they'd be begging the miss to let them stay. She didn't give it another thought. She packed up her medical case and stood up to leave. Seeing her about to go, Liam panicked. Even if she wouldn't help him escape, she could at least undo the chains. Was he supposed to spend the night on the sofa? Wait, can you at least get these off me? He pleaded, rattling his chained wrists. Evelyn paused, medical case in hand. The miss only told me to treat your wounds, she said coolly. She said nothing about setting you free. With that, she walked out without a backward glance. Hey, wait, hello. Liam struggled, yelling after her. The movement of his throat pulled at the wound on his chest, and as the numbness from the injection wore off, he grimaced in pain. He watched her disappear around the corner of the staircase, and his last shred of hope died with her. He stared up at the opulent ceiling, too exhausted to even struggle anymore. Cassandra did not return. Liam lay on the sofa, finally drifting into a fitful sleep late into the night. When he woke up, two maids were quietly undoing the chains. He tried to ask them a few questions, but they worked in complete silence, as if they were deaf and mute. In that moment, Liam finally accepted his reality. Without Cassandra Thorne's permission, he was never leaving. Fine, let her play her games until she gets bored. He'd waited 18 years to be free. It was a few more days. He figured her interest in him was just a passing fancy. Once the novelty wore off, she'd let him go. He told himself to stop trying to reason with her. She was a complete and utter psychopath. With his hands finally free, he rubbed his bruised wrists and went to the bathroom. After taking care of business, he stared at his reflection in the mirror. In just a few days, his face had become unnervingly pale. After starving and then binging, he'd thrown most of it up. The throbbing pain in his chest was a constant, agonizing reminder of his situation. Whatever. If you can't beat them, join them. For now, he had nowhere else to go. He might as well be a ghost in this house and let his body heal. He touched his stomach. The thought of another lavish feast made him nauseous. He just wanted some broth. He made his way downstairs and saw Maria and the other staff nearing the dining table. When Maria saw the bandage on his chest, a flicker of surprise crossed her face, but she said nothing, simply smiling. Good morning, sir. Liam didn't respond. He noticed there were more people in the living room today, at least 7 or 8 maids, all in the same uniform, bustling about as if preparing for a major event. None of it was his business. Is there any broth? He asked. Broth. Maria paused, then smiled. Yes, but you'll have to wait a moment, sir. You can eat after the miss returns. Is she insane? He had to wait for her to come back just to eat? A flash of anger crossed Liam's face. What if she doesn't come back? He retorted. Am I just supposed to starve to death? Oh no, that won't happen, Maria said with a dismissive wave and a smile. The meal is already prepared. The miss will be back in an hour. Please have a seat on the sofa and wait. With that, Maria bustled off to attend to other duties. Liam was so angry his jaw was twitching. So much for compromising. He had to wait for her to eat? If she didn't come back, he would go hungry? What kind of twisted rule was that? It was a violation of his basic human needs. Fuming, Liam saw that the dining room doors were now closed and locked. Couldn't get in even if he wanted to. He slumped onto the sofa in frustration and yelled at the ceiling. I need some water. That's what he said. In the back of a speeding black Bugatti, Cassandra Thorne's voice was as cold as ice. From the driver's seat, Evelyn glanced at her in the rearview mirror, her expression alight with excitement. Yes, miss. Where on earth did you find such a specimen? He's not even interested in money. Cassandra was silent for a moment before dropping 4 chilling words. I found him on the street. Evelyn's hand jerked on the wheel, nearly sending the car into a ditch. Miss, are you crazy? You can't just pick up random men off the street. What if his family finds out? Even with the Thorne family's power, a dead body could be handled. But a living, breathing person, suddenly abducted? His family would raise hell. The harsh midday sun flashed through the window. Cassandra's expression darkened, her voice remaining frigid. They won't find out. You. Evelyn started to say more, but she caught the look in Cassandra's eyes in the mirror, a gaze so cold and sharp it felt like it could pierce right through her. She shivered and quickly changed the subject. Miss, the investigation from the other night is complete. It was Tiffany who tampered with your wine at the gala. I've already informed our people to terminate all of the Zhang family's contracts. As for Tiffany herself, what are your orders? She chattered on, but Cassandra didn't seem to be listening. Her head was tilted back against the leather seat, her eyes half closed as she watched the scenery fly by. She suddenly felt like the drive home today was taking an eternity. How long had they been driving? And they still weren't there. Seeing this, Evelyn knew to stop talking. She fell silent and focused on the road. Liam sipped the warm tea. It soothed his stomach and eased his nausea. He sat listlessly, watching the maids hurry back and forth, then turned his gaze to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The garden was bathed in the bright midday sun. Beyond the sound of the maid's footsteps, he could hear the wind rustling through the leaves outside. He realized, with a start, that in his 18 years of striving, he had never once just sat quietly and appreciated the simple beauty of the world. Before he turned 18, he'd even slept with one eye open, terrified that one day he'd wake up and be thrown back out on the street. His whole life had been one of cautious, soul-crushing appeasement. The sight of the leaves trembling in the wind brought him a strange sense of peace. For a moment, he felt calm, as if the rest of the world and all its problems had faded away. If he wasn't a prisoner here, he thought, he might actually like this place. But the moment of tranquility was short-lived. In the distance, on the sprawling green lawn, a black Bugatti was approaching. The devil was back. Liam's calm shattered. He started to speak, but the movement of his throat pulled at the wound on his chest, sending a sharp, lingering pain through him. The miss is back. Hurry up. Maria, who had been watching the window, urged the staff on. Their movements quickened. By the time the black car pulled up, their preparations were complete. Maria hurried to the main entrance. Glancing back at Liam, still seated on the sofa, she couldn't help but remind him, Sir, the miss has returned. You should stand to greet her. Like she's some kind of queen? Stand to greet her? Hell no. Liam scoffed. What, did she lose her legs? Can't she walk on her own? Maria just sighed helplessly and said no more. She pulled the main door open, her face arranged in a welcoming smile. Outside, Cassandra emerged, dressed in a strapless black gown. The long skirt flowed behind her, rippling with every graceful step she took. Welcome home, miss, Maria said with a smile, stepping aside to let Cassandra pass. The meal is ready. Shall we serve now? Cassandra hummed in acknowledgement. Her sharp eyes scanned the living room, finally landing on Liam. Noticing Cassandra's gaze, Maria quickly explained, Sir was sick this morning. He may not have fully recovered yet. She was trying to make an excuse for him. Cassandra knew exactly what she was doing, but didn't call her on it. Prepare the meal, was all she said. Yes, miss. Maria nodded and hurried off to the kitchen. Liam, who had been about to take another sip of water to steel himself for a confrontation, almost choked when he heard Maria's excuse. He'd been on the second floor all morning. Maria hadn't even been up there. How could she possibly know he'd been sick? Were there cameras everywhere in this house? Was his every move being watched? It meant there were probably people hidden in the shadows he didn't know about. For now, making a move on Cassandra was out of the question. Before he could dwell on it, Cassandra was standing before him. Her beauty was truly a weapon. If only she wasn't a psychopath. Liam remained seated, staring up at her with a mixture of anger and helplessness. He watched her take a small box from her purse and removed a necklace. A delicate pink gemstone, shaped almost like a tiny bell, hung from the end, glittering in the light. Liam didn't recognize the brand, but he knew anything from Cassandra Thorne would be astronomically expensive. Her eyes flickered to the bandage on his chest. A playful smirk touched her lips. You'd better heal up nicely. Otherwise, you won't be able to wear this. Who wants your damn trinket? Liam shot back, his voice dripping with scorn. Does she think I'm a dog? A necklace? He was a man. He wasn't wearing some ridiculous piece of junk. His defiance only sparked her amusement. Cassandra laughed, her tone light and condescending, as if she were talking to a pet. So cute! Exclamation point. Liam's anger boiled over. He grabbed the teacup from the table and hurled it at her feet. Crash! The sound of shattering porcelain echoed through the hall. Maria came running, her face etched with panic. She frantically tried to dab at the tea stains on Cassandra's dress. "Miss, it's my fault. I forgot to clear the teacups." A flash of fury crossed Cassandra's eyes, but it was gone in an instant. Her voice was cool. "It's fine, Maria. Go serve the meal. We'll clean this up later." Yes, yes. Maria scurried away, shooting a stunned, fearful glance at Liam as she left. It was the first time she had ever seen anyone dare to treat her mistress this way. More importantly, the miss didn't even seem angry. The living room fell silent again. Liam glared at Cassandra, who simply gave him a passing glance. Ignoring her damp skirt, she took her seat at the head of the dining table. Maria and the maids moved with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, the table was filled with an array of exquisite dishes. The aroma was intoxicating, a constant temptation for Liam's senses. He had to admit, the food at the Thorne estate was incredible. Even though he felt sick, the smell alone made him feel ravenous. Once everything was served, Maria poured Cassandra a cup of tea. At a dismissive wave from her mistress, she nodded, shot a worried look at Liam, and then ushered the staff out of the room. The vast hall was empty except for the two of them. She's not afraid I'll move now, Liam thought, which meant there were definitely people hidden somewhere, watching. He abandoned any thought of overpowering her. He was still injured, and from what he'd observed, Cassandra knew how to handle herself. He would only get one chance. If he failed, he'd likely suffer for it, and might even lose his life. He was ready to check out the rat race, but he wasn't suicidal. He hadn't even begun to live his own life yet. He wouldn't die so easily. The room was quiet. Cassandra sipped her tea, her cold eyes studying Liam from time to time, as if he were an interesting specimen. The look made his skin crawl. He abruptly stood up, moved to the chair diagonally across from her, and sat down, picking up his knife and fork with defiant energy. His action seemed to surprise Cassandra. She watched him cut a piece of steak and put it in his mouth, a playful tone in her voice. "I thought you'd be on a hunger strike." Not a chance. The meat was tender and delicious, but every swallow sent a jolt of pain through his injured chest. Each pang of pain was a reminder. He would get his revenge on this she-devil who was tormenting him. "I have no intention of dying," he said, the words forced through clenched teeth. "Oh." Cassandra's eyes deepened with curiosity. "You really are different. What's that supposed to mean?" Liam asked, confused. Cassandra delicately picked up a cherry, popped it in her mouth, and swallowed before answering coolly. "After such a major setback, you haven't given up. You're still fighting to live." "What do you mean, fighting?" Her words stung. "I'm a person. I have my own thoughts. Why shouldn't I live?" Cassandra didn't respond, instead examining him with a probing gaze. The atmosphere grew tense. A moment of clarity hit Liam with the force of a physical blow. "You investigated me." He looked up and met her all-seeing eyes, and immediately felt foolish for asking. They had been intimate. He was now her prisoner. Of course a woman like Cassandra Thorne would have dug up every last detail about him. He said nothing more and focused on his food. His sudden silence seemed to surprise her. Her eyes flickered with curiosity. "They framed you like that, and you never thought about revenge?" "Framed?" Liam's hand paused. The memories of the Hamiltons flooded back. "Dad, the investigation is clear. It was Liam who tampered with Jason's brakes. His eldest sister, Isabel, had screamed, her voice filled with rage and disgust. Mr. Hamilton's face had been a mask of fury, his eyes bulging. "Liam, after all these years we've raised you, you try to kill our own son for money?" "Liam, do you have a conscience? If Jason hadn't been driving slowly, my son, my only son, would be dead." Mrs. Hamilton had wept, clinging to Jason's hand as he lay in the hospital bed. Liam had stood in the doorway of the hospital room, watching them in disbelief. Mr. Hamilton had been ready to call the police, but Jason, lying weakly in bed, had stopped him. He was just confused for a moment, Dad, Jason had pleaded. "I was gone for so long, and then I came back and took all of your love from him. It's my fault." He continued, "Don't call the police. For the family's reputation and for Liam's future, it's okay if I suffer a little. I'm sure he'll see the error of his ways." Under Jason's repeated pleas, Mr. Hamilton had eventually agreed to drop it on the condition that Liam leave with nothing and never use the Hamilton name again. Thinking back on it, it was almost laughable. Jason had said all that because he knew the accusation wouldn't stand up to a real investigation. If the police got involved, the truth would come out, and his little scheme would be ruined. Liam could have called the police himself, but by then his heart had turned to ice. It wasn't just Jason's schemes since his return. It was the fact that years of what he thought was love hadn't earned him a single ounce of trust. From his adoptive parents to his 3 sisters, all he saw in their eyes was contempt and disgust. Even if he had proven his innocence, they would never have believed him. He wasn't their blood. Revenge. Liam let out a bitter laugh. There's no point. I don't waste my time on pointless things. His answer seemed to genuinely surprise Cassandra. She hadn't expected him to be so philosophical about it. But, being raised in someone else's home, it must have been hard. For some reason, looking at Liam's calm, detached eyes, Cassandra felt an unexpected pang in her chest. He was sitting right in front of her, a living, breathing man, yet he felt ethereal, as if he might just vanish from her sight in the next second. The feeling infuriated her. Her entire life, she had gotten everything she ever wanted. Power, status, money, people groveled at her feet for a fraction of it. But not Liam. His eyes never truly saw her. It was as if she didn't even exist in his world. This lack of control was driving her mad. An almost feverish heat rose in Cassandra's eyes. She fought back the overwhelming urge to consume him whole. "Do you want to leave here?" she asked. Instantly, a flicker of hope ignited in Liam's eyes. He looked up, his gaze locking with hers. "Yes," he said, his voice urgent. "If you let me go, we can forget all about you injuring me. It'll be a clean slate." There was again, the moment she mentioned leaving, his dead eyes sparked with life. Damn it, am I that beneath him? Realizing her emotions were being manipulated by him, Cassandra narrowed her eyes, a bloodthirsty smile gracing her lips. "I was just kidding. Did you really believe me?" "You." Liam felt like he was going to pass out from sheer frustration. But after the past few days, he was starting to get used to it. He was getting used to every insane word that came out of this lunatic's mouth. His gaze fell. "Do whatever you want," he said flatly. He stopped talking and avoided her eyes completely. Cassandra knew this wasn't working. This wasn't fun anymore. This wasn't what she wanted. What she wanted most was to see that look of helplessness on his handsome, detached face. She slowly picked up a napkin and wiped her hands, her burning gaze still fixed on him. Tossing the napkin aside, she leaned back, a playful smirk on her lips. "I can let you go out." Instantly, Liam's eyes lit up again. He looked straight at her, waiting for the conditions. Seeing his excitement, Cassandra took her time. Her voice was a slow, cold drawl. "I'm just curious. Where would you go? What would you do?" He hadn't expected her to ask about his future plans, but he knew that even if he didn't tell her, the Thorne family could find out with a snap of their fingers. His plan was simple. Find a security guard job, live a quiet life, and fade away. It wasn't exactly a secret. Get a job as a security guard, probably, as long as it pays enough to live on. No big plans. Cassandra raised an eyebrow, a look of disbelief on her face. "That's it." "Yep," Liam said with a shrug. "What's the point of being rich and famous? I'd rather just have my own quiet, happy life." Cassandra was floored by his embrace of mediocrity. She couldn't believe it. This man's ambition was so small, it didn't even qualify as unambitious. It was nothing. She gave him a cool look. "Do you have any idea what the Thorne family is capable of?" "I do," Liam said, smacking his lips nonchalantly. "If no company will hire me, I'll just do odd jobs for cash. Work a day, then disappear. It's not like the Thorne family can keep tabs on me every single day, can they?" He was being a complete rogue. Cassandra was speechless. He was right. She could have people watch him, but tracking cash-in-hand gig work would be a nightmare. The thought of getting daily reports on his menial jobs was exhausting. She was dealing with someone who was completely indifferent to his own life. Making a man like that beg was no easy task. Cassandra picked up her teacup, took a sip, and said thoughtfully, "Fine." At that one word, Liam's head snapped up. Cassandra slowly set down her cup and continued, "But you will come work at my company, and every night you will return here." Damn. Liam knew this was the biggest concession he was going to get from her. It was better than being trapped in this villa all day with only maids and flowers for company. It was a chance to be outside. And hey, it saved him rent, and she was even arranging a job for him. How could he say no? Liam fought to contain his excitement and nodded. "Fine, I accept your terms." That meal was the best one Liam had eaten since he'd arrived, and it was all because he was finally getting out. After they finished, he immediately asked Maria for the one thing he desperately needed, his phone. With Cassandra's approval, he finally got it back. He went to his room, plugged it in, and turned it on. As expected, there were no missed calls. Not a single message on iMessage or WhatsApp. Liam had anticipated this, so it didn't sting too much. He opened Instagram. The first thing he saw was a post from his eldest sister, Isabel, from yesterday. "Little bro is out of the hospital. Mom and Dad are taking us all on a trip to celebrate." Lake Tahoe, here we come. The picture was a group shot of the entire Hamilton family. In the photo, they were all smiling brightly. Even his second sister, Penelope, who had been studying abroad, was back. It was clear how much their real son meant to them. Liam barely glanced at it before scrolling down. Jessica. OMG, I love my Chad. Let's see who doesn't have the latest Hermes yet. Winking face with tongue, winking face with tongue, winking face with tongue. Below, there were just work-related posts from former colleagues. Liam's eyes narrowed. He opened his contacts, and without a moment's hesitation, deleted Jessica and every single member of the Hamilton family. He then went into his phone settings and blocked all of their numbers. It was something he had been wanting to do for days. When the last number was blocked, Liam let out a long, slow breath. For the first time, he felt a sense of peace. With that done, he lay back on the luxurious bed, put on a comedy series, and let himself relax. Even when Evelyn came in later with her medical case to change his dressing, he didn't say a word to her. After she finished, she looked at him lying there like a king and shook her head. The miss said that once you're healed, a dedicated driver will be assigned to you. Your post will be at the main entrance of the Zenith Corp building. She couldn't believe that the mention of this seemed to excite him. I don't need to be fully healed, Liam said, sitting up. I can start tomorrow. Just find me a few turtleneck sweaters. Staring at Liam's eager face, Evelyn was completely bewildered. Who on earth actually enjoyed working? Why would he want to leave this life of luxury to be a doorman? Was he just trying to prove how different he was? And the miss. She couldn't believe she'd actually agreed to this ridiculous demand. Couldn't she see this was just some kind of reverse psychology a normal man would use? I'll go ask the miss, she said, her mouth twitching, and left. A short time later, a maid brought him an assortment of men's clothing, all of it high-collared. The fabric was silky smooth. Even a glance told him they were incredibly expensive. Liam ended up choosing 2 simple black sweaters. He was just a security guard now. Wearing such expensive clothes would only draw unwanted attention. The last thing he wanted was for anyone to know about his connection to Cassandra Thorne. If he got tangled up with the Thorne family, he knew he'd be dragged right back in that world of scheming and backstabbing. He was done with the rat race. All he wanted now was to coast. Cassandra Thorne didn't bother him for the rest of the day, and Liam enjoyed a rare moment of peace in his bedroom. He was so excited about starting his new job the next morning, about the return of a freedom he thought he'd lost, that he couldn't fall asleep until well after midnight. The next morning, he was up at the crack of dawn. He showered and changed with military speed. Just as he finished buttoning up, Evelyn Reed walked in with a first aid kit. It was the first time she'd seen him in his new work attire. The tailored security uniform accentuated his athletic build, and the high-necked sweater underneath, combined with his tightly pressed lips, gave him an air of intense self-restraint. For a brief moment, Evelyn thought she finally understood why her boss was so insistent on keeping him around. Maybe it wasn't about the man himself, but his physique. She quickly dismissed the thought, not daring to speculate further. After changing Liam's dressing, she gave him a final instruction. Your driver's name is Haley Liu. She's already waiting downstairs. She'll fill you in on the details. With that, she left. Liam pulled up the collar of his sweater, unfazed. He grabbed his phone and headed straight downstairs, ignoring Maria when she called out to him for breakfast. Outside the villa, just as promised, a black Maybach was parked on the gravel path beside the garden. Liam's mouth twitched. Seriously? Cassandra had to be messing with him, sending him to work in this. Did she think he wasn't conspicuous enough? But the chance to leave this place was right in front of him. Suppressing his annoyance, Liam decided to just get in the car. He steeled himself and pulled open the door. In the driver's seat, a young woman in a sharp black suit smiled at him. Good morning, sir. I'm Haley Liu, your driver. You can call me Haley. From now on, our departure time is 8 a.m., and I'll be waiting for you at the company entrance after your shift ends at 9 p.m. The moment he got in, Haley launched into her introduction. Unlike the reserved Evelyn, she was a chatterbox, her words bubbling out like water from a boiling kettle. After days of near silence, the friendly stream of conversation was a welcome change, and Liam found himself actually wanting to talk to her. You seem excited, Liam said, a corner of his mouth twitching. Of course I am. Haley expertly gripped the steering wheel and floored it, the car launching forward. I'm your dedicated driver now. Just 2 trips a day. It's way easier than my old gig. How could I not be excited? Liam's mouth twitched again. She had a point. Who wouldn't want an easy job? Haley kept chattering. Man, you really hit the jackpot. Ms. Thorne assigned me to you personally. That's some VIP treatment. At that, Liam frowned slightly. Why did everyone here say the same thing to him? But he couldn't blame them. Working under a tyrant like Cassandra Thorne, it was only natural they'd see the world through that lens. They had no idea that the greatest luxury in life wasn't a fancy car or a cushy job, but the freedom to be yourself. Haley continued, mostly expressing her envy, and Liam quickly lost interest in the conversation. He stared out the window at the passing scenery, though he wasn't really seeing it. "Can you pick me up in a different car tonight?" he asked. "A different car?" Haley glanced at him, surprised. "What's wrong with this one?" It was a top-of-the-line Maybach. If it weren't for Liam, she'd never get to drive something so nice. "It's too flashy," Liam said bluntly. "I'm just a security guard. I don't want to attract attention." Haley looked as if he'd just told the world's biggest joke. She shot a disbelieving look into the rearview mirror, confirming that he was, in fact, wearing a security guard's uniform. Her mouth twitched. She couldn't understand this guy. He was complaining that a Maybach was too conspicuous. But it was a request from her charge, and she didn't want to mess up this new, easy assignment. "All right, I'll ask Ms. Thorne about it," she said. "Thanks," Liam grunted. The rest of the drive was silent. He watched the cityscape blur past, calculating the time. As expected of a driver chosen by the Thornes, Haley drove fast. What should have been an hour-long trip took only 40 minutes. At 8:40 a.m., the car pulled up in front of Zenith Corp. As the cornerstone of the Thorne family empire, Zenith Corp was one of the largest conglomerates in New York City. The entire skyscraper was encased in expensive glass, fronted by a massive courtyard with 2 security booths at the main gate. This, he figured, was his new post. The car stopped at the gate to the main courtyard. A man in a security uniform immediately emerged from one of the booths. "Ms. Lou, what a pleasant surprise." The man greeted her with a wide, deferential smile, bowing slightly toward the driver's seat. Haley rolled down her window. "Morning, Mark," she said cheerfully. She then pointed to the back seat, where Liam was about to get out. "This is the new hire. He's all yours now." Mark Warren's eyes shifted to Liam, and he nodded eagerly. No problem at all. You can count on me." As their conversation ended, Liam stepped out of the car. Through the window, Haley called out 9 p.m. "Tonight, I'll pick you up right here." Then she hit the gas, and the Maybach disappeared in a flash. Hearing this, Mark looked Liam over with new curiosity. "New hire?" "Yeah," Liam nodded. It was his first time working security, but he understood basic social etiquette. This chance to work was precious, and he didn't want to give Cassandra any excuse to fire him. He had to play the game and build the right relationships. He forced a polite smile. "Pleasure to meet you, Mark." "Right," Mark nodded, his mind already putting the pieces together. A company like Zenith Corp didn't just hire any security guard off the street. You had to have some kind of pull. This guy was clearly connected to Haley. "Come on in," he said, leading the way. Liam followed him into the main security office. He sat down and took in his surroundings, his mouth twitching. Leave it to the Thornes. Even the security office at the company entrance was ridiculously luxurious. Air conditioning, hot water, a lounge area. It had everything. There were over a dozen large monitors displaying security feeds from all over the building. This single office was nicer than his entire old startup space. Mark led Liam into his personal office, poured him a cup of hot water, and asked, "So, where do you graduate from?" "Columbia," Liam answered honestly, accepting the cup with both hands. Mark nodded, impressed. "A high achiever. Columbia's a tough school to get into. You got brains." "Not really. Just got lucky," Liam said with a modest smile. Already figured out Mark was the head of security, so he cut to the chase. "Mark, if you don't mind, I'm ready for my work assignment." "All right," Mark nodded, taking his time. "What did you do before this?" "Nothing much. Started my own business, but it failed. Racked up a lot of debt." Liam spun a plausible lie. This was a fresh start for him. He didn't want to dwell on the past. A flicker of understanding crossed Mark's eyes. So, the kid had no real work experience. He clapped Liam on the shoulder sympathetically. "Don't worry about it. You're young, plenty of time to try again. The pay here is about $5,000 a month. Work hard for a few years, and you'll clear that debt in no time." Then Mark's tone shifted. "But working for a company is different from running your own. You have to be on time. No being late. No leaving early. You can count on me," Liam promised with a smile. "Good." Mark nodded, saying no more. He opened the personnel file and wrote Liam's name down. "Are you Haley's cousin or something?" he asked casually. "No," Liam replied, shaking his head instinctively. "No." Mark's hand paused, a look of surprise on his face. "Then why is she driving you to and from work?" Liam was speechless. After a moment of surprise, Mark's expression changed. A knowing, almost suggestive smile spread across his face. "Oh, I get it. Say no more." He scribbled something next to Liam's name. Okay, you'll be on patrol duty. 5 rounds a day, checking various spots around the company. The rest of the time is yours to rest. It's an easy gig. He had already finalized the assignment. Liam wanted to explain, but he couldn't come up with a good excuse. He let it go. So what's the patrol schedule? He asked. It's split between morning and afternoon, Mark explained. 2 rounds between 9:30 and 11:30, M. Lunch break is from noon to 2 p.m. Then 3 more rounds anytime between 3 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. He looked at Liam with a fawning expression. This is a prime assignment, you know. It's easy, and with full attendance, you can make $6,500 a month. The cushy job and generous pay made it obvious. Mark was trying to curry favor with Haley. Liam knew it, but with Haley driving him to work every day, any explanation would just make things worse. He decided to just go with the flow. After thanking Mark, Liam picked up his employee ID and headed out to start his shift. Patrol staff had their own dedicated workroom where they could relax at their desks between rounds. Mark insisted on personally escorting Liam to his station. Though Liam felt awkward about it, he didn't argue. The special treatment earned him more than a few strange looks from the other guards. After all, everyone who worked here was an elite in their own right. Take Leo, the guard at the desk next to Liam's. He had a master's degree and was sharp and talented, yet he had to fight tooth and nail just to land a security job at Zenith Corp. It wasn't hiring season, so when a kid in his early 20s suddenly appeared, everyone knew there was more to the story. Liam spent the morning's 2 patrol rounds trailing behind the others. No one spoke to him, but he was happy to be left alone. While the others might have been resentful, they were professionals. They did their jobs, collected their paychecks, and kept their heads down. The initial excitement had worn off, and by the end of the morning, Liam was starving. At 11:30, he ordered food on his phone. He'd already scouted the area. There was a bustling commercial street nearby, so getting food wasn't difficult. At noon, his food arrived. As he was carrying it back to his desk, he saw Leo leaving the workroom with a set of utensils. The company has a cafeteria? Liam asked, surprised. Leo, despite his initial reservations about Liam, was still a colleague. He nodded. There's an employee dining hall in the back building. Oh, okay. Liam nodded. Thanks, I'll check it out tomorrow. He was surprisingly polite. The simple thank you softened Leo's opinion of him. They were all just working stiffs, after all. Why make things hard for each other? Seeing the takeout bag in Liam's hand, Leo offered a piece of advice. The company gives a $300 monthly meal stipend. The cafeteria is cheap. You just need to bring your own utensils. Damn, no wonder this was a top company. Not only was the salary for a security guard over 60 grand a year, but they also had a meal stipend. You wouldn't find benefits like that at many places in the city. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Liam said sincerely. Leo just nodded and walked away. Alone in the workroom, Liam returned to his desk, opened his food, and started to dig in. He ordered takeout. At her private office villa, Cassandra Thorne was having lunch. She sat on a plush sofa, enjoying an exquisitely prepared meal while video chatting with Evelyn Reed on a large screen. Yes, Ms. Thorne, I don't get it. Our cafeteria has gourmet chefs, and he'd rather order takeout. Evelyn's exasperated face filled the screen. Cassandra leisurely spooned some yogurt into her mouth, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. What did Haley say? Nothing much, just that he wants a different car. He said the Maybach is too conspicuous for work. Evelyn's face was a mask of confusion and complaint. This guy is so demanding. I really don't understand. Too conspicuous? A wicked glint appeared in Cassandra's eyes. Then switch it to the Rolls-Royce. What? Evelyn's complaint died in her throat. Was Ms. Thorne playing some kind of game? A black Maybach was relatively low-key. Switching to a Rolls-Royce would be like putting up a billboard announcing Liam's special status to the entire company. But she didn't dare question her boss's decision. Yes, Ms. Thorne. I'll let Haley know right away. Cassandra didn't respond. Her gaze fixed thoughtfully on the variety of delicate dishes on her plate. She'd let him go to work, and he was still trying to distance himself from her. A slow smile spread across her lips. Life wasn't that simple. Her lips moved, and her voice was ice. Inform the board. I'll be at the company tomorrow at 9 a.m. to hold a board meeting. What? Evelyn was stumped. Ever since Cassandra took over the company, Evelyn had been the one to preside over meetings. Ms. Thorne usually worked from her city villa, connecting by video conference at most. She only visited the company headquarters once every 6 months. It hadn't even been a month since her last visit. Why was she going again? This was highly unusual, but Evelyn knew better than to question it. Yes, Ms. Thorne, I understand. I'll send out the notice immediately. Cassandra said nothing more, continuing her meal with detached elegance. Understanding the dismissal, Evelyn ended the call. The lunch break passed in a flash, and the employees gradually returned to their posts. The afternoon proceeded as usual. During a break, Liam ordered a set of utensils online. With a company meal stipend, he'd be a fool not to use it. Cassandra hadn't said when this arrangement would end. While her interest in him was fresh and she was providing him with a job, he needed to save every penny. That way, when she inevitably got bored of him, he'd have a cushion to find a new job. That was his plan. Out of his $6,500 month salary, he'd save $5,000. That left $1,500 for expenses. But he didn't have any friends and no social obligations, so his expenses were minimal. He figured he could probably save almost all of it. Suddenly, this life didn't seem so bad. However, as his last patrol of the evening concluded, Mark Warren gathered everyone for a meeting. Standing in the center of the outdoor common area, Mark addressed the team with a grave expression. "All right, listen up, everyone. I have an announcement. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Ms. Thorne will be here in person for a meeting. I want everyone on monitoring duty to be on high alert. Patrol teams will switch to hourly rounds. I want you all on your A game. You hear me?" "Yes, sir." The guards responded in unison. Liam shouted along with the rest, though inwardly he was scoffing. So Cassandra was coming. What was the big deal? You'd think she'd never set foot in the company before. Before he could finish his internal monologue, he heard the guards next to him start to grumble. "Damn, didn't Ms. Thorne just visit like 2 weeks ago? Why is she back again? Who knows? When she's here, we can't even slack off for a second. This courtyard is huge. It takes forever to walk a full round. And now they're adding more." "Dude, you're looking at it all wrong. Ms. Thorne is single. If she takes a liking to you, you think you'll still be stuck in this dead-end job? Easy for you to say. Who's lucky enough to catch her eye? You'd never get past her family anyway. Hey, a man's got to have a dream. What's wrong with being a kept man? I do it in a heartbeat." Listening to their banter, Liam's mouth twitched. If you actually caught Cassandra's eye, you'd become her puppet, losing yourself completely, forced to live by her whims. What was the point of a life like that? He knew all too well the painful, hopeless feeling of being dependent on someone else. He never wanted to experience that again. Liam pursed his lips and pushed through the crowd to sit back down at his desk. Noticing his reaction, Leo leaned over, an unusual gesture. "Hey, you should be on my team tomorrow. I'll put in a request with the chief. Ms. Thorne is coming. We can't have any screw-ups." Knowing Leo meant well, Liam didn't refuse. He was a new guy, after all. "Thanks, man. Should we exchange numbers?" "Sure." Leo nodded. After a day of working together, he'd realized Liam wasn't a difficult person and was actually quite polite. He pulled out his phone. "Scan my code." "Got it." A notification chimed as they added each other. Leo then clapped Liam warmly on the shoulder. "If you have any questions about work, just ask me." "Will do." "Thanks, Leo." After a bit more small talk, it was time to clock out. At the main gate, seeing Liam standing alone, Leo offered a helpful tip. "There's a bus stop about 200 yards that way. Most people who work around here catch the bus there." Liam thanked him profusely. As Leo turned and walked away, Liam let out a quiet sigh of relief. It seemed that besides Mark, no one else at the company knew he had a personal driver. Most of the employees had already left. He'd observed that the office staff usually clocked out between 8 o'clock and 8:30 p.m., while the security guards stayed half an hour later. This worked out perfectly. Fewer people would be around to see Haley pick him up. He waited 5 minutes. At 9 p.m. sharp, a car appeared at the gate. But the moment the window rolled down, Liam exploded. "Are you kidding me? You switched to a Rolls-Royce." Was she insane? He had specifically told her not to be so conspicuous. A beat-up pickup truck would have been fine. Instead, she brought something even more eye-catching. "Just get in." This was Ms. Thorne's order. It's a Rolls-Royce Wraith, one of the top sports cars in the world. The ride will blow your mind. Haley was practically vibrating with excitement. She dreamed of driving this car for years. Thanks to Liam, she'd already gotten her fix with 2 luxury cars in one day, and now she was behind the wheel of a Rolls. Her life was complete. Liam's mouth twitched. He saw a few people walking out of the building, and, fearing he'd be seen, quickly jumped into the car. The ride was undeniably smooth and the interior luxurious, but at that moment, he was too furious to speak. He wanted to pry open Cassandra's head and see what was going on in there. Did their messed-up situation have to be a public spectacle? He fought back the urge to scream at Haley. "Tomorrow, wait for me in the underground garage." "Huh? Why? That's a long way from the entrance, and I'd have to back out." "Isn't waiting at the gate easier?" Haley asked, confused. Liam gritted his teeth. "Did your boss specify where she wanted you to pick me up?" Well, no. She just said to drive you. Then it's the underground garage, Liam said, his tone leaving no room for argument. It was so sharp that Haley instinctively glanced at the rearview mirror. Seeing the storm on his face, a shiver went down her spine. She didn't dare argue. Okay, she squeaked. At the bus stop, Leo and a few other guards were chatting on a bench when the car sped past. Whoa, was that a Rolls Royce? Holy crap, a limited edition Wraith. Which company's heir is that? Must be a big contract. Isn't Ms. Thorne coming tomorrow? Probably for that. Damn, when will I ever be able to afford a car like that? Afford it? I'd die happy if I could just drive it for 5 minutes. In the backseat of the passing car, Liam saw Leo and his colleagues chatting freely. He envied their carefree expressions. That was the life of freedom he yearned for. Back at Black Lake Manor, Maria greeted him at the door with a warm smile. Welcome back, sir. Would you like me to prepare a late-night snack? Liam waved his hand dismissively. He didn't have a habit of eating late. He'd already had dinner during his break. He glanced around, but didn't see Cassandra. It looked like she wasn't home tonight. He breathed a sigh of relief. The less he saw of that crazy woman, the better. He went straight upstairs to his room, showered, scrolled on his phone for a bit, and fell asleep. The next morning, he woke up on time. Learning his lesson, he went downstairs for breakfast, which would save him some money. The spread was impressive, but sitting alone at a massive table laden with food felt uncomfortably extravagant. Glancing at Maria, who was bustling around nearby, Liam couldn't help but say, Maria, why don't you join me? I can't possibly eat all of this. Maria reacted as if he'd suggested something horrifying, waving her hands frantically. Oh no, it's Ms. Thorne's rule. The staff is not permitted to eat at the dining table. More of her damn rules. The woman had a rule for everything. Liam pursed his lips and asked casually, Your boss didn't come home last night? Ms. Thorne had business last night. This estate is far from the city, so she doesn't usually stay the night here, Maria explained. She looked at Liam, a thought crossing her mind. Ms. Thorne used to come home only once or twice a month, but since Liam's arrival, her visits have become much more frequent. Liam didn't press further. He quickly finished his last soup dumpling, stood up, and left. As usual, Haley was waiting for him at the gate. Another 40-minute drive, and they were at the office. This time, Haley took him straight into the underground garage. It meant a 10-minute walk to the security office, but Liam didn't mind. At 9 a.m. sharp, Liam clocked in. Dude, you really don't show up a minute early, do you? Leo leaned over from his desk the moment Liam sat down. Hey, it's a job. As long as I'm on time, right? Liam replied. Before he could say more, Leo stood up. Come on, you and I are on the same team today. We're doing an interior check. His but hadn't even warmed the chair yet. Liam quickly got up and followed him. They grabbed their patrol equipment, stun guns, flashlights, and entered the main building through the front doors. It was Liam's first time inside the Zenith Corp headquarters. The lobby was stunning. Exquisite decorations were everywhere, with a fountain and flower bed in the center. The space was divided into a reception area and a lounge. Just the ornaments on the coffee tables looked priceless. Leo, on patrol, the man at the reception desk greeted him with a friendly smile. Yep, showing the new guy the ropes, Leo replied cheerfully. He pointed at the man and introduced him to Liam. This is the head of reception, Mr. Rollins. Liam glanced at his name tag, Rin Fei. He nodded with a smile. Mr. Rollins, nice to meet you. You too, Mr. Rollins smiled back, offering a friendly warning. When you patrol the top floor, try to be quiet. Ms. Thorne is in a meeting up there. Got it, thanks. We'll get going, Leo said with a wave, leading Liam further inside. Walking past the glass-walled offices, Leo sighed wistfully. Man, if only I could work in one of these offices someday. Happy to have made a friend, Liam engaged him. What's so bad about our job? This place is huge. A few rounds a day, and we save on a gym membership. Isn't that better than being stuck behind a desk? Leo looked at him like he was crazy. Dude, do you have any idea that everyone in there makes 6 figures? How can our security gig even compare? He pressed the elevator button, and this is just the first floor. The higher you go, the higher the rank. I know a few people here who pull in over $1 million a year. Liam wasn't surprised. It was a Thorne company, after all. From what he knew, the Thorne family's power was immense. This was probably just one of their many companies. It seemed the people here didn't know the full extent of it, judging by Leo's reaction. The Thornes were certainly good at keeping a low profile. The higher they went, the fewer people there were, and the more luxurious the decor became. They checked each floor one by one. But as they were about to head to the top floor, Leo suddenly clutched his stomach, his face contorted in pain. Oh no, that spicy noodle soup I had for breakfast is coming back to haunt me. Before Liam could react, A flashlight was shoved into his hand. Dude, you go on ahead. The hallway up there is empty right now. Just do a quick walkthrough. I gotta use the restroom. Leo had been a good friend to him these past 2 days. Liam had no reason to refuse. He nodded and pressed the button for the top floor. Okay, I'll wait for you here when I'm done. Thanks, man. Leo clutched his stomach and sprinted toward the restroom. The elevator doors closed, and Liam ascended to the top floor alone. As Leo had said, when the doors opened, the hallway was deserted. The only sound came from the murmuring voices behind the frosted glass of a nearby conference room. Everyone was indeed in the meeting. Unfazed, Liam stepped out of the elevator and completed his patrol. But just as he finished and was about to head back down, the door to a lounge next to the conference room opened. It was the last person he wanted to see, Evelyn Reed. She stood before him, poised and professional in high heels. Well, look at you, playing the part, she said, her arms crossed as she looked him up and down with a condescending air. Liam wanted nothing more than to avoid being seen with her. He tried to walk past as if he hadn't noticed her, but she blocked his path with an outstretched arm. Where are you running off to? Ms. Thorne wants to see you. Me? Liam was dumbfounded. Was she out of her mind? This was the office, and the conference room was right next door. Evelyn tilted her chin up slightly, lowered her arm, and walked toward the lounge, tossing a final command over her shoulder. Go on, big shot security guard. Don't key, miss. Thorne waited, staring at the lounge door. Now, just a few feet away, Liam clenched his jaw. He steeled himself and walked in. He'd taken no more than 2 steps when that familiar, icy voice came from behind the large desk. Close the door. Liam was more than happy to comply. He quickly shut it. A second later, the desk chair swiveled around. Cassandra Thorne, dressed in a pristine white pantsuit, was leaning back, her long legs crossed, one white high-heeled foot resting on the corner of the desk. She looked at him with a smirk that was anything but friendly. She had to admit, her instincts were flawless. The security uniform added a forbidden edge to him, the formal fabric clinging to his perfectly lean and muscular frame. The way he tried to suppress his emotions was just so amusing. The smile on Cassandra's lips widened, a flicker of something possessive in her phoenix-like eyes. Her intense gaze made the hair on Liam's arms stand up. He pressed his lips together and decided to cut to the chase. What do you want, miss? Thorne. His tone was sharp, laced with a barely concealed resentment. Cassandra's smile didn't falter. She raised a hand, crooking a long, slender index finger. Come here. Liam's grip tightened on his stun gun. He didn't move. If you have something to say, just say it. I have to get back to my patrol. He hoped she'd get the hint. It was work hours, and the boardroom full of executives was right next door, waiting for their CEO to lead the meeting. Surely she couldn't just sit here and coast. Cassandra, unaccustomed to being defied, felt a flash of irritation, but she maintained her patience. As I recall, company policy requires patrol teams to consist of at least 2 people, correct? Liam frowned. She hadn't left the room, and he hadn't seen Evelyn report back to her. So, she knew all along? That seemed unlikely. Leo had said he was going to put in a request, and security assignments were finalized that same day. His gaze fell on the computer monitor on the desk in front of her. She must have seen it on the security feed. Knowing Cassandra's personality, if she decided to make an issue of it, Leo could lose his job. The thought of his new and only friend getting in trouble because of him was unbearable. He clenched his jaw. What do you want? Nothing. Just for you to come here. She lowered her legs from the desk, crossing her right over her left. She shot him a playful look. What? Are you afraid I'm going to eat you? Liam instinctively tightened his grip on his equipment and silently began to walk toward her. Cassandra tilted her head, enjoying the view as he approached. She could even smell the clean, masculine scent that wafted through the air as he moved. Maybe the office heating was too high. Though it was only early spring, she could already detect that crisp scent of his. Too far, she said, a hint of displeasure in her voice as her eyes narrowed. He was already standing right in front of her. Liam was about to retort when he looked up and met her gaze. She was leaning back languidly in her chair, her cool, beautiful eyes locked on him. Damn it. Liam sucked in a silent breath and quickly lowered his head again. He silently circled the desk and stood beside her. The closer he got, the more potent his scent became. A predatory glint flashed in Cassandra's eyes. Good, she murmured, stretching lazily. Then, as if it were an afterthought, she said, carry me next door. Liam felt the last thread of his sanity about to snap. You don't have your own, too. Hiss. He stopped short as he felt a sharp pinch. Her tone shifted as her gaze flickered to the monitor. I have cameras everywhere. Do you really think you can escape? She turned back to him, her voice dripping with amusement. You wouldn't want me to call the police, would you, officer? After a long silence, he finally spoke. You need to go to the conference room, right? He was hoping he could just escort her to the door without having to go inside. But Cassandra just smiled. My shoes are uncomfortable. Just carry me to the dressing room. Phew. Liam finally let out a breath of relief. He placed his patrol equipment on the desk and, with little effort, swept her up into his arms. He held her tightly, afraid that if he dropped this pampered princess, he'd never hear the end of it. This was torture. Her soft hands were not behaving. Liam was so tense he could barely breathe. He moistened his dry lips and muttered, Ms. Thorne, if you keep doing that, I can't walk. He was telling the truth, but also trying to warn her to back off. To his surprise, Cassandra shot back with a derisive sneer. You don't even have that much strength? How do you expect to work as a security guard for my company? Liam was rendered speechless. He could only quicken his pace, resigned to carrying her to the dressing room. He wasn't sure if she was doing it on purpose, but just as he managed to lean down and pull open the lounge door, he felt her fingers dig into him, a mischievous little squeeze. He didn't dare say a word, terrified of being seen. He swallowed his pride and rushed into the adjacent dressing room. As he finally set Cassandra down on the sofa, Liam sighed in relief. But then a thought struck him. Wait, aren't there cameras in the hallway on this floor? He wasn't sure. His job was patrol. He hadn't had a chance to learn the monitoring setup yet. Given his cooperative behavior, Cassandra was uncharacteristically forthcoming. The top floor surveillance is on an independent system. Hearing this, Liam finally relaxed. His task was complete. He didn't want to linger a second longer. Before Cassandra could say another word, he blurted out, I have to get back to my patrol. You can change. I'm leaving. He fled, not even daring to look back. Behind him, Cassandra watched him go, her eyes narrowing slightly. But surprisingly, she let him leave without another word. Riding the elevator down from the top floor, Liam's heart was still pounding. He tightened his uniform. Only when the elevator doors opened did he finally feel a sense of relief. Leo was already done and waiting for him. Seeing Liam emerge, he looked at his empty hands in confusion. Dude, where's our gear? Liam's mind went blank. He'd left the stun gun and flashlight in the lounge. Damn it. Was he going to have to go back up there? He absolutely did not want to go back a second time. He scratched his head and came up with a lie. Oh, I was checking an electrical panel and left it on a table nearby. Leo gave him an exasperated look and checked the time. Whatever, it'll be fine there. It's almost 11. They'll be taking a break from the meeting soon. We can't disturb them. We'll grab it later. Right. Liam nodded, relieved. He followed Leo back to the workroom. They had barely sat down before it was time for their second patrol. This time, they were assigned to the exterior, which just meant a few laps around the courtyard. Cassandra didn't bother him again. By noon, he heard from Mark that she had left the company, and he finally felt at ease. At lunchtime, he took his new utensils and followed his colleagues to the cafeteria. Having already witnessed the opulence of Zenith Corp, he wasn't particularly shocked by the lavish dining hall. He got a plate of braised pork over rice and a bowl of seaweed egg drop soup, then found a quiet corner to eat by himself. The day passed quickly. As evening approached and closing time neared, around 8 p.m., most of the staff had already left. It was an unwritten rule. On days Cassandra visited the company, they could leave an hour early. The security office quickly emptied out. Bored, Liam sat at his desk scrolling through his phone, planning to head to the garage around 8:50. But before he could relax for long, he heard a girl's voice from outside. Hello? Is anyone here? Mark, are you in? Liam was the only one left. He put his phone away, stood up, and opened the door. A young woman was standing there, swimming in an oversized business suit that looked comically large on her. Seeing him, the girl rushed forward. Where's Mark? Has everyone already left? Liam found her amusing. It's closing time. Where else would they be? The girl's face fell. Oh no, what am I going to do? My car broke down. I need to call a tow truck. She looked young and inexperienced. Liam took pity on her. I'll open the gate for you. You can call the tow truck. That won't work. The tow truck is too big. I need Mark's approval to let it into the compound. She mumbled. But then, her eyes landed on Liam, and a spark of hope ignited. Hey, mister, do you know how to fix cars? Me? Liam was taken aback for a moment. What's wrong with it? I think it's the engine or something. It won't start. I can't even get it to move. She clearly had no idea what the problem was. She was probably a new driver. Since he had nothing better to do and was heading to the garage anyway, he said, All right, let's go. I'll take a look. Thank you so much. The girl's eyes lit up, and she happily followed him toward the underground garage. Are you new here? Liam asked casually as they walked. Yeah, I just graduated. My family pulled some strings to get me in. Liam's mouth twitched. She was certainly blunt about it. He felt compelled to offer a piece of advice. The workplace isn't like school. You might want to keep that kind of thing to yourself. I know. Don't worry. I'm only telling you because you seem like a nice guy. The girl winked playfully. My name's Chloe Xia. From now on, we're friends. Ugh. Liam wasn't looking to make friends. The more friends he had, the more vulnerable he was. Leo was a perfect example of that. What's your name, mister? She asked, tilting her head up to look at him, a good half a foot shorter than her. His eyes flickered, and his reply was a bit colder. Liam. By the time they finished their chat, they had reached the garage. Following Chloe's directions, Liam carefully inspected the car. Finally, with a sigh, he told her to put the key in the ignition. When she did, Liam's mouth twitched again. Did you forget to press the clutch? Chloe's face flushed with embarrassment. She scratched her head. I just got my license. I forgot. Liam was speechless. Her family actually let her drive on her own? They had a lot of faith. Chloe got in the driver's seat and buckled up. Don't worry. I'm actually a really steady driver. I just had a brain fart. Are you heading home? I can give you a ride. With her skills, she could offer, but he wouldn't dare accept. Just then, Liam spotted the conspicuous Rolls-Royce slowly pulling into the garage. He quickly shook his head. No thanks. You should get going. I'm about to head out myself. Seeing his refusal, Chloe didn't press. She closed her door, started the car, and drove off. You know, if you get off work early, you can just call me to come pick you up. The moment Liam got in the car, Haley's nonstop chatter began. He was slowly getting used to her talkativeness. It was a rare chance for conversation. He shot back. I don't have your number. A sudden screech of tires filled the garage as Haley slammed on the brakes. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot to give you my contact info, she exclaimed, slapping her forehead. She whipped out her phone. Here, scan my code. Liam, slightly exasperated, pulled out his own phone. After the confirmation chime, he added her to his contacts. Haley tapped a few times on her screen, renaming Liam's contact to Second Paycheck, and launched back in her monologue. If you ever get off early, or if you need to buy something or anything like that, you can just text me. Anything. Liam's eyes lit up. So I can call you at other times too? Of course. Haley nodded with a smile. I'm your dedicated driver now. Just let me know what you need. Ms. Thor didn't put any restrictions on your movements. Damn it. Why had he been ordering takeout for the past 2 days? He had assumed Cassandra put him here to keep him under surveillance, to prevent him from going out. It seemed she wasn't quite that sadistic. Liam's mood instantly brightened. Seeing his happy expression in the rearview mirror, Haley was baffled. You didn't know? No. Liam nodded, genuinely grateful. Thanks for telling me. Haley felt a sudden urge to smack herself. Why did she have to run her mouth? Now her easy 2-trips-a-day job was about to get a lot more complicated. Adhering to the principle of the more you say, the more you screw up, Haley fell into a rare silence for the rest of the drive. Liam didn't notice. To him, this news was a godsend. His lunch break was long enough for a quick trip into the city. He could even take a day off to go out. Or he could figure out when Cassandra wasn't at the manor and hit up a bar. His future suddenly seemed bright. The freedom he craved was within reach. Liam was so thrilled he couldn't fall asleep until late that night, not even caring whether Cassandra came home or not. He figured it would be bad form to ask for a day off so soon after starting, so he went to work as usual for the next few days. Cassandra didn't show up at the office again. Though Liam tried to keep his distance, Leo's desk was right next to his. After the incident with the patrol, Leo now frequently leaned over to chat. Before long, they had struck up a decent friendship. Of course, besides Leo, Liam now had a little sister figure trailing him. Big brother Liam. Big brother Leo. Over here, in the cafeteria, Chloe sat in a corner, waving excitedly at them. Ever since the car incident, she had made a habit of visiting Liam during her breaks to chat. Her internal department was full of backstabbing and office politics, and she often complained about it. Liam was indifferent, treating it as gossip, but Leo, sitting next to him, was always engrossed. Over time, the three of them became a tight-knit group, something like friends in a vast company. Every day at noon, Chloe would bring her lunch over to eat with them. We'll be right there after we get our food. Leo called back, slapping Liam on the shoulder. Come on, bro, let's go eat. Liam nodded slightly, glanced at Chloe, and headed for the food line. He tried to keep a certain distance from both of them. He didn't want any weaknesses. Right now, he could lie flat and play dead, but if he developed attachments, it would be all too easy for Cassandra to manipulate him. Besides, in any workplace, could there truly be real friends? The moment he sat down, Chloe announced excitedly, Are you guys off tomorrow? A day off? Liam was surprised. He hadn't even thought to ask about that. Let's see. The timing should be about right, Leo said, checking his phone. Yep, it's been a full week for me. I get one day off. Chloe's face lit up. She looked at Liam expectantly. What about you, big brother Liam? Before he could finish, Leo cut in. He could take a day off too. It's been a week for him. Great. Chloe was thrilled. Let's go to karaoke tomorrow. I've been in the city for so long and haven't gone out to have fun once. Huh. Leo was taken aback. You didn't go to college in New York? No, I went to Boston Business School. My school was super strict and the classes were tough. My mom was afraid I'd fall behind, so she never let me go out. As she spoke, Chloe's voice grew somber, as if touching on a painful memory. Realizing he'd said the wrong thing, Leo quickly stuffed his face with food and mumbled, All right, then let's go out tonight and have some fun. We can sleep in tomorrow. Chloe's gloomy eyes instantly brightened. She looked at Liam with hopeful eyes. So, big brother Liam. Before she could finish, Liam interrupted her. I can't. I have something to do tonight. Seeing the disappointment wash over Chloe's cute face, Leo couldn't bear it. He complained, Come on, man, you can sleep in tomorrow. Why be such a buzzkill? It wasn't that he was trying to be a buzzkill. He wanted to go. But his every move was being monitored by that psycho. If he actually went out, who knew what consequences would follow? Liam had no choice but to refuse. I really have something to do. It's not convenient. What? You got a date with your girlfriend? Leo teased, a piece of vegetable hanging from his mouth. Across the table, Chloe suddenly tensed up, watching Liam carefully. No. Liam shook his head, his expression darkening. True. I've never seen you talking to anyone. Leo muttered to himself, then slapped Liam on the back. Don't tell me your parents still don't let you go out at night. Seeing Liam's silence, Leo threw an arm around his shoulders. Come on, bro, how old are you? You still let your family control you like that? We're adults. What's wrong with going out for a bit of fun? Who's going to stop you? Liam's eyes flashed. Leo had a point. Ever since meeting Cassandra and going through all that, he developed a kind of trauma response, an excessive fear of her. He was working now. He was still under her surveillance, but he was a living, breathing person. Was he supposed to live in her shadow forever? No, this was exactly the kind of freedom he wanted. With that one sentence, something in Liam clicked. He nodded, changing his mind. All right. Before the other two could celebrate, Liam quickly added, You guys go ahead first tonight. I have to take care of something. I'll meet you at the karaoke bar. They were just happy he'd agreed, so they had no objections. Leo immediately declared he would catch a ride with Chloe, and Chloe readily agreed. Liam's mouth twitched. He buried his head in his food, mentally plotting how to break the news to Haley. Night came quickly. As usual, Haley was waiting for him in the garage. The moment he opened the car door, she urged him on. Hurry, hurry. I have to make a trip to Boston later. Liam paused, not getting in right away. Boston? Yeah. Evelyn said, I have to deliver this thing. No idea what's inside. It's all wrapped up so tightly. She said, gesturing with her hand toward the passenger seat. Liam glanced over and saw a large, heavy-looking box. It wasn't his problem. He said bluntly, Then you should head to Boston first. You can pick me up when you get back. What? Haley was shocked. No way. My orders are to take you back to the manor. The orders are to take me back, but they don't specify what time, Liam said, his bluffing skills now well-honed. I have tomorrow off, and I'm going to karaoke bar. I'll send you the location. You can pick me up after you get back for Boston. But Ms. Thorne, Haley started to argue, but Liam cut her off. If they knew you had to drive me at this time and still sent you on an errand, doesn't that mean the timing doesn't matter? Besides, it's not like I'm not going back. His impromptu logic seemed to make sense to Haley. Boston and Black Lake Manor were not on the same route. She would have to come back anyway and didn't want to take the long detour. She nodded. All right, which karaoke bar are you going to? I'll drop you off. A small smile played on Liam's lips. Luckily, Haley wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. If it had been Evelyn, he would never have gotten away with it. He said nothing more and got into the car. They arrived at the corner of Phoenix Road. Okay, text me when you're done. I have to get going. Before Haley could finish, Liam was already out of the car. He shut the door, and the bustling, noisy street scene enveloped him. He finally felt a long-lost sense of freedom. Go back. He'd see how he felt. This kind of freedom was too rare to waste. So what if Cassandra found him? At least this moment belonged to him. He walked into a small convenience store on the corner. The loud chatter of the customers didn't bother him at all. It was 9:30 p.m., and the place was filled with people grabbing drinks and snacks. Listening to their conversations, Liam felt an emotional surge so strong he nearly cried. He grabbed a pack of gum, paid for it, and slipped it into his pocket. Walking toward the karaoke bar, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Midnight Melody Karaoke. Liam walked inside, the music growing louder, reverberating in his head. The sound seemed to clear the fog of torment that had clouded his mind for so long. In a lobby, men and women in revealing, flashy outfits moved in groups. It reminded him of the early days of the Hamilton family business, when he often had to frequent such places for work. The feeling was familiar. "Sir, are you by yourself?" a waiter asked as he approached. Before Liam could answer, an arm slung around his shoulder. "Chloe said you were almost here and told me to come down and get you. I didn't think she'd time it so perfectly." It was Leo. He gestured to the waiter and then pulled Liam further inside. They navigated through the sparse crowd, took the elevator up, and Leo pushed open the door to room 301. Inside, Chloe had already set out the drinks and paused the music, waiting for them. Seeing them enter, Chloe grabbed a deck of cards from the table. "Okay, guys, the rule is, no one leaves sober tonight. You're on. You think I, a grown man, can't outdrink you?" Leo shouted, joining her at the table. Liam smiled and followed them. On the top floor, in VIP room 603. "Jessica, I just saw your ex-boyfriend." The moment she entered, Jessica's friend, Veronica, rushed to her ear, her face a mask of anxiety. Jessica, her cheeks flushed with alcohol, responded drunkenly. "Which ex-boyfriend?" "Liam," Veronica hissed. "The one you just dumped last month, remember?" "Who?" The glass nearly slipped from Jessica's hand. She quickly forced a smile at the others in the room. "Hey guys, you go on and have fun. Veronica and I are just going to the restroom." She grabbed Veronica and dragged her out of the room. "You said you saw Liam?" Jessica's face was tense, her hands gripping Veronica's shoulders. "Yes. He went up to the third floor with some other guy." "Is he insane? I made things crystal clear to him last time. Why is he still following me around like some kind of stalker?" Jessica complained, her face filled with disgust. "I know, right?" Veronica looked worried. "Today is Chad's birthday. You don't think he came here on purpose, do you?" "What if?" She didn't need to finish. Jessica knew exactly what she meant. "No way. This is Chad's birthday party. Everyone here is a big shot. If he comes here and makes a scene, not only will your chances of landing a rich guy be ruined, I'll be finished too." Jessica's eyes were sharp, all traces of her earlier drunkenness gone. "So what do we do?" Veronica panicked. Jessica frowned, thinking for a moment, then pulled out her phone. "Don't worry. I'll make a call." Veronica nodded frantically. She watched as Jessica dialed a number and walked a few steps away. "Justin, you're not asleep, are you? I have a job for you." "I can't. I'm done, Chloe. You're my big sister now. I can't drink anymore." Just past 11, Leo was sprawled on the sofa, begging for mercy. "Big brother Leo, we've barely even started and you're already tapping out? A man can't say he's done." Chloe, her cute face flushed red, tried to haul Leo to his feet. But Leo's large frame was too much for her. After a few tugs, she heard his tractor-like snores and gave up. She turned to Liam. "Big brother Liam, let's play then. You've barely lost it all. Let's take a break." "It's still early," Liam said with a smile. He was good at cards. With a little bit of thought, he could easily win. Chloe, being a business school grad, was also decent at it. Poor Leo never stood a chance. He hadn't won a single game since they started. "Okay." Chloe nodded. She rubbed her stomach and stood up. "I'm going to the restroom. I'll be back for a rematch." "All right." Liam nodded, watching Chloe leave. He got up and paused the blaring music. The room fell silent, save for the muffled bass from the next room and Leo's heavy snoring. Liam smiled helplessly. Bored, he pulled out his phone and started scrolling through short videos. Time flew by. It was almost 11:30. Chloe had been gone for half an hour. This karaoke bar was crowded, and at night, full of drunk people. Even with security cameras in the hallways, it wasn't safe for a young woman to be out alone for so long. After a moment's thought, he glanced at the sleeping Leo and decided to go look for her. The hallways were now teeming with drunkards. Liam made his way to the women's restroom and was about to ask a female employee for help when a man's voice called out from behind him. "You're Liam, right?" Liam frowned and turned to see a young man with bleached blonde hair chewing on something, looking at him with an arrogant smirk. He had no time for guys like this and didn't care how he knew his name. He turned to leave, but the blondie slung an arm around his shoulder, leaned in close, and whispered threateningly, "That girl from your room? She's with us. If you know what's good for you, you'll come with me." Liam couldn't think of any enemies he had. He had left the Hamiltons, had no friends to speak of. Who would be targeting him? Although Chloe wasn't his responsibility, she was a colleague who called him Big Brother Liam every day. This was probably about him. Cassandra wouldn't stoop to such a cheap trick. He pressed his lips together, his hands slipping into his pocket. By memory, he pressed the record button on his phone. "Lead the way," he said, his voice low and cold. The blondie chuckled. Smart move. They rounded a corner on the third floor, and the blondie pushed open the door to room 312. Liam felt a shove from behind and stumbled into the room. The first thing he saw was Chloe, unconscious on the sofa. Sitting next to her were two men. One of them he recognized. It was Jessica's brother, Justin. The moment he saw Liam, Justin grinned, picked up a beer bottle, and swaggered toward him. Long time no see. Ex-brother-in-law. An old acquaintance indeed. Liam knew about Justin. He'd dropped out of high school and had been messing around ever since. He'd gotten into a ton of trouble as a minor, but after a few warnings, his behavior only got worse. As the only son, his parents spoiled him rotten. Liam had even given him money before at Jessica's request. After dealing with a psycho like Cassandra, guys like this were nothing. The knot of tension in his chest loosened. He shot Justin a contemptuous look and calmly walked over to the sofa and sat down. What do you want? Liam asked flatly. Nothing, Justin said with a sly grin, placing the beer in front of Liam. Just haven't seen you in a while. Thought I'd invite you for a drink. He added, don't worry, your little girlfriend just passed out. It's nothing serious. Let's have a drink. If this was an invitation, they wouldn't have knocked Chloe out to use her as bait. They even sent someone to get him. Liam knew exactly what kind of dirty tricks Justin was capable of. He didn't have time to waste on people like this. Didn't Jessica tell you we broke up? Liam said directly. She did. Justin replied. But you and my sister were together for a while. That makes you half a brother-in-law. What's wrong with having a drink together? Liam couldn't be bothered to argue. He lifted Chloe's arm and draped it over his shoulder. I don't have time for this. He was about to pull Chloe up and leave. The next second, a loud crash echoed behind him. The two blondies blocked his path to the door. Justin was holding a small knife, a smug grin on his face. Liam, I'm trying to be nice here. Don't make me do something we'll both regret. To Liam, this threat was about as menacing as a fart. Annoying, but utterly useless. He glanced back coolly. What? You want to start something? Seeing Liam's dismissive attitude, Justin's temper flared. Rick, Morty, get him. Beat the crap out of this punk, he roared. At his command, Liam gently lowered Chloe's arm. He cracked his knuckles. As the two goons charged, he executed a perfect shoulder throw, sending one crashing to the floor. A swift kick to the other one's kidney followed. He put his full force into both moves. Damn, he had been holding back for days. He worked out regularly. Of course, he knew some self-defense. At Cassandra's house, his hands were always tied, figuratively. He never had a chance to fight back. Not to mention, Cassandra had a gun. Even if he had managed to get the drop on her, she could have just called the cops and had him locked up. But now his phone was recording. Any injuries he inflicted would be self-defense. He was finally getting a chance to let loose. The two goons were on the floor, groaning, unable to get up. Justin, who had been so arrogant moments before, was frozen in shock. You're just a desk jockey. Since when do you know how to fight? Liam didn't waste words. He walked up to Justin and delivered a resounding slap across his face. The sharp crack echoed in the room, and Justin saw stars. There's a lot you don't know about me, Liam said, rubbing his palm. He turned to pick up Chloe and leave. You son of a bitch. You hit me. Even my own dad doesn't hit me. Justin's lip was bleeding, his anger ignited. He snarled and lunged at Liam. Liam sidestepped, brought his elbow down hard on Justin's back, and sent him sprawling to the floor. This lowlife dared to mess with him? Liam planted a foot on his back, applying pressure. You better not mess with me again, he warned in a cold voice, or I'll beat you up every time I see you. The combination of the physical pain and Liam's menacing tone was enough. Justin broke. I'm sorry, Liam. I was wrong. I'll never do it again. He pleaded. Liam hadn't expected the kid to fold so quickly. A punk like this just needed to be taught a lesson. He took his foot off him, slung Chloe's arm over his shoulder, and lifted her up. Seeing Liam about to leave, Justin panicked and grabbed his pant leg. Please, big bro, don't go out there. Do me a favor, just sit here for a little while longer, okay? Don't go out. Liam frowned. That was a new one. All this trouble just to keep him in this room. Yeah, my sister called and told me to keep you here, no matter what. Justin was in so much pain, he was on the verge of tears, sobbing on the floor. Hearing this, Liam's anger subsided, replaced by curiosity. Why does she want to keep me here? Justin was genuinely scared now. He blurted out between sobs. My sister's on the top floor at a birthday party for Chad. She's afraid you'll go up there and cause trouble. As he spoke, he silently cursed his luck. If it wasn't for Chad, a major whale, he wouldn't have dragged himself out of bed for this. Liam was speechless. What a coincidence. He just wanted to have a night out on his day off, and Jessica happened to be here too. She was afraid he'd ruin her chances of landing her new fish. Seeing Justin clinging to his pants, Liam sighed. Tell your sister I'm just here with a colleague. It's a coincidence. We're broken up. I have no intention of looking for her. At these words, Justin's eyes lit up. You mean it? Of course I mean it. I have better things to do than to look for her. He looked down at Justin. When have you ever seen me cause trouble for anyone? Justin shivered and shook his head vigorously. Never, never. You've always been a good guy, brother-in-law. It's only me who does stuff like this. At least he was self-aware. Liam's mouth twitched. Don't call me brother-in-law. I have nothing to do with your sister anymore, he snapped. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm leaving. Hearing this, Justin tried to push himself up, but a sharp pain shot through his back, and he couldn't straighten up. He forced a pained smile at Liam. Go ahead, mister. Liam, I'll see you out. He was probably still afraid Liam would go find Jessica. Liam couldn't be bothered. He still had a drunk colleague passed out in the other room. He picked up Chloe. Come on, you can help me carry my other colleague out of his room. Justin's back was killing him. At Liam's words, his face went pale. But he didn't dare provoke Liam again. Fearing another beating, he called out to his goons. The three injured men awkwardly half-carried, half-dragged the unconscious Leo out of the building. Although they drew many stares, in a place like a karaoke bar, it was a common enough sight. Especially with Justin's two blonde-haired cronies, no one dared to interfere. Even the waiter at the entrance hurried to hold the door open for them. Hey, big bro, where are you headed? I can give you guys a ride, Justin offered, sticking close to Liam. Liam knew what he was up to and didn't bother engaging. No need. I have a car coming. While they were carrying Leo, he had already contacted Haley. She was waiting outside. Okay. Then I'll walk you to your car, Justin said, trailing behind. The next second, he saw Liam walk toward the most conspicuous car at the entrance. A Rolls-Royce. Whoa, a Rolls-Royce? Wait, that looked like a global limited edition. No way. Didn't his sister say Liam had been kicked out by the Hamiltons? Justin's jaw dropped as he watched the Rolls-Royce's window roll down. A professionally dressed female driver sat inside, waving at Liam. Mr. Liam, this is... Haley's eyes widened as she took in the bizarre entourage following Liam and the girl he was carrying in his arms. Liam motioned for her to open the back door. He carefully placed Chloe inside and explained quietly, colleagues. They drank too much. Just giving them a ride. Haley's eyes flickered, but she just nodded. All right. After all, Liam had saved her a lot of driving today. Helping him out was no big deal. Besides, Ms. Thorne had specified no restrictions on his movements, as long as Haley knew about them. The two blondies had never seen such a luxurious car. The driver's professional uniform alone was intimidating. They stood by the car, holding Leo too afraid to move. Liam clicked his tongue. What are you waiting for? Get him in. The two finally snapped out of it and scrambled to get Leo into the car. All right, you follow me far enough. Go back to your party, Liam said, glancing at the dumbfounded Justin. He opened the passenger door and got in. The car started, its powerful engine roaring to life. Justin was completely stunned. Damn, a Rolls-Royce. And with such a professional driver. She even called Liam Mr. Liam, wasn't he supposed to have been cast out by the Hamiltons? Justin replayed his past encounters with Liam. Even when he was with the Hamiltons, he had never seen them with such an expensive car. Luxury cars were common in the city, but a limited edition sports car like this was on another level. Could it be? Did his ex-brother-in-law have another source of wealth? Justin's eyes lit up. This guy was way richer than Chad. He rushed back into the karaoke bar and dialed Jessica's number. A short while later, Jessica appeared in room 312. Justin, is he really gone? She asked, surveying the empty room. He is. Justin nodded, quickly closing the door behind him. He grabbed his sister's arm. Sis, let me tell you, not only did he leave, he left in a Rolls-Royce. What? Jessica froze, the shock wiping the drunken flush from her face. A global limited edition Rolls-Royce, with a super professional driver. Justin was practically bouncing with excitement. He hugged his sister's arm, his smile sycophantic. Sis, I'm telling you, Liam must have another business. How else could he afford a top-tier sports car like that? Jessica's eyelids twitched. She knew there were many rich people in New York. She had seen her fair share when she was with Liam, but she had never heard of a car this expensive. Chad was richer than the Hamiltons, but he usually just drove a G-Wagon. Among the young and rich, the car was a status symbol. A Rolls-Royce. A global limited edition. The price tag must be in the millions. Liam was kicked out by the Hamiltons. How is this possible? Justin, are you sure you saw it clearly? Jessica asked, her voice filled with a desperate uncertainty. I'm positive. I even helped open the car door. Justin's eyes shone. He puffed out his chest. And I heard the driver call him Mr. Liam. Think about it, sis. If it wasn't his own car, would she talk to him like that? The music in the private karaoke room was deafening, but for Jessica, the alcohol haze had been blasted away, replaced by a clarity that was anything but welcome. This wasn't a happy surprise. It was a gut punch of pure, unadulterated fury. Liam had his own business? He was that rich? Why hadn't he ever said anything? If he had, she never would have said what she did. Seeing Jessica's stunned silence, her brother Justin got anxious. He tugged at her arm. Jess, you have to get him back. Mom and Dad said my down payment for a house is all on you. You can't let a golden goose like this get away. His words made her face drain of color. Justin had no idea. He didn't know the vile, cutting thing she had said. How could he possibly go back now? Did you tell him it was my idea for you to stop him? She asked, her voice a dry rasp. Justin froze, then gave a slow, guilty nod. Jessica swayed on her feet, so furious she thought she might pass out. Her useless brother couldn't even handle one simple task. What was she supposed to do now? Justin seemed to realize his mistake, but a second later, his optimism returned. It's fine, sis. Liam's always been wrapped around your finger. If you just go back to him, I bet he'll treat you just like he always has. How could he? Jessica sank onto the sofa, her face pale. Why not? Justin pressed. Have you forgotten how good he was to you? He was so in love with you. I'm sure if you just explain everything, he'll understand. He leaned in, his voice insistent. Besides, you guys were together for 3 years. 3 years. At his words, memories of her time with Liam flooded her mind. He really had been good to her. He remembered her cycle, bought her little gifts for no reason, and would rush back from 1,000 miles away for their anniversary. On other special occasions, he'd find new ways to spoil her, buying her anything and everything she wanted. The memories played like a film reel in her mind. Honestly, of all the guys who chased her, plenty were more impressive on paper, but Liam was the one she had been most reluctant to lose. He was just too good at it, too attentive, and they did have a 3-year foundation. These past few days without a single message from him. She wasn't used to it. If she went back to him now, told him she would marry him, that she had fallen in love with him, he would probably forgive her, right? After all, it was just a momentary lapse in judgment. Who doesn't make mistakes? Besides, it's not like she actually slept with Chad. Her alcohol-numbed brain, now jolted awake, raced to piece together a plan. She had it all figured out. Under Justin's hopeful gaze, she pulled out her phone, opened her message thread with Liam, and typed out a text. Liam, I asked my brother to stop you today because I wanted to see you. He misunderstood what I meant and said the wrong thing. Do you have time? Can we meet up soon? She was about to hit send but felt something was missing. She thought for a second, then added a sentence to the end. Honestly, I regretted what I said the moment the words left my mouth. It's not what you think. I miss you. There. Perfect. Jessica's thumb hovered over the send button, her whole body trembling with a mix of nerves and anticipation. The thought of herself sliding into the seat of that limited edition Rolls-Royce tomorrow sent a jolt of excitement through her. She took a deep breath and pressed send. Message failed to send. You're not on this person's contact list. The glaring red exclamation mark burned on her screen. Jessica's eyes went wide. He deleted her? Justin, catching a glimpse of her phone out of the corner of his eye, panicked. Sis, what did you do? Why did Liam delete you? How should I know? Jessica shrieked, all composure gone. She was frantic. In the past, no matter how big their fights were, she was always the one who deleted him. And it would never be long before he was sending a new friend request, calling her phone over and over until he had coaxed her back. He had never once lost his temper with her, let alone deleted her. After their last fight, she hadn't deleted him, figuring he could just be a ghost on her friend's list, someone she could occasionally post stories for to show off and get under his skin. But this time, he was being this aggressive? He actually deleted her. Was he really planning a breakup with her for good? Pure panic set in. Jessica scrambled to her contacts list and dialed his number. An automated voice answered. The number you have dialed has been disconnected or is no longer in service. She tried again and again. The same message. There were only 2 possibilities. Either his phone was actually off, or he had blocked her number. As much as she hoped for the former, the latter seemed far more likely. Seeing his sister couldn't reach Liam, Justin couldn't sit still. Sis, what are you waiting for? Go to his place and find him. Go. Are you an idiot? Jessica, already on edge, finally snapped. The Hamiltons threw him out. How am I supposed to know where he lives? The apartment Liam had been living in was one the Hamiltons had recently bought. In a city like New York, just owning a place was impressive, and this was in a decent complex close to downtown. She had considered giving up her own rental to move in with him, but Liam had told her the apartment wasn't in his name. He was just staying there temporarily. At the time, Chad was pursuing her hard, and she wanted to keep some private space for herself, so she kept her lease, just visiting Liam frequently. Now, it was obvious he wouldn't be living there anymore. His number was blocked, his contact was deleted, and she didn't even know who his friends were. She had no way to reach him. You're so stupid. You didn't even get another way to contact him. Fuming, she rounded on her brother. Justin, stunned by the verbal assault and still aching from his earlier scuffle, looked like he was about to cry. You never told me to ask. Seeing her brother's tears, Jessica sighed, a pang of pity cutting through her anger. Forget it, forget it. New York is only so big. I refuse to believe I can't find him. An idea struck her. Justin, she said, go downstairs and ask the front desk. They must have registered an ID or something to open the karaoke room. See whose name it's under. Good idea. I'll go right now. Justin's eyes lit up. Ignoring his own aches and pains, he rallied his buddies and rushed out of the room. Alone in the booth, Jessica opened her feed to look at Liam's profile. It was blank. For the first time, she couldn't see his posts. A sudden, sharp panic seized her, leaving her disoriented. She tapped on his profile picture, her eyes fixed on the Add Friend button. She hesitated for a long time before finally, desperately, pressing her thumb down on the screen. Not knowing where Leo lived and with him passed out cold, Liam had Haley drive him straight to the Zenith Court building. After settling Leo in the break room of the main security office and covering him with a blanket, Liam returned to the car. Sir, what about her? Haley asked, glancing into the rearview mirror. Liam looked at Chloe Xia, whose breathing was steady. She was fast asleep. Find a hotel, he said with a sigh. She's a young woman. It wouldn't be right to leave her in the security office. That one sentence alone earned Haley's respect. It was a gentlemanly thought. After spending the last few days together, Haley had gotten used to her casual banter with Liam. As she drove, she said, No wonder, Ms. Thorne has taken an interest in you. You're a pretty decent guy. Praising him was one thing, but bringing Cassandra into it? Liam's brow furrowed in displeasure. Tonight's events had unleashed something in him, hardening his resolve to escape. Without Cassandra's chains, he could do whatever he wanted. Life would be incredible. The thought lifted his spirits, and he found himself uncharacteristically making conversation with Haley. How long have you worked for the Thorns? Haley was an open book. Not that long, really. The Thorns sponsored my education when I was a kid. After I graduated from my studies in the UK, I came to work for them. The Thorns had a sponsorship program? Liam frowned slightly. Of course. A family that powerful would think long-term, cultivating loyalty in their inner circle from a young age. Oh, he said. Where did you go to university? Oxford, Haley replied casually. I told Miss Thorne at the time that the tuition was too high and I felt bad, but she just told me to focus on my studies and not worry about the money. She glanced at him, a smile in her voice. See, my boss is a really good person. If it weren't so dark in the car, Haley would have seen the word yeah, right written all over Liam's face. A good person? Good my ass. He didn't bother arguing. Did you ever think about striking out on your own? And do what? Ms. Thorne practically runs half of New York City. Besides, she added, I make 20 grand a month, and that's not even counting bonuses. I just drive a car, and the rest of the time is my own. Where am I going to find a better job than this? Liam fell silent. She had a point. Forget New York. Even in a small town, plenty of people were struggling to find work. While they talked, Haley had already driven to the Grand Astoria, the closest luxury hotel to the office. She pulled up to the entrance, got out, and opened the door for Liam. He carefully lifted the sleeping Chloe and followed Haley inside. The moment they entered, a bellhop rushed over. Ms. Lou, good evening. Liam's mouth twitched. It seemed everyone in the neighborhood knew Haley. He subtly took a step away from her. Haley gave a slight nod. An employee from the company, she said, gesturing to Chloe. She had a bit too much to drink. A king room, please. The bellhop immediately went to get a key card. Liam breathed a sigh of relief. As expected of someone from the Thorne family, efficient and professional. He couldn't find a single fault in how she handled it. The key card was ready in minutes. Haley took it and led the way, opening the room and gesturing for Liam to go inside. He nodded, carried Chloe in, and gently placed her on the bed, pulling the covers over her before they left. It was nearly 1 a.m. by the time they approached Black Lake Manor. Haley, who had been holding her tongue the whole way, finally couldn't resist. Sir, can I ask you a favor? What is it? You have a day off tomorrow, right? If you're going out, could you maybe not leave in the morning? Even in the darkness of the car, Liam could hear the pleading in her voice. He knew she'd been driving all day and needed to catch up on sleep. He nodded. No problem. Thank you so much. Haley exclaimed, flooring the accelerator. The car shot forward, and in less than 3 minutes, they were at the main gate of the estate. As they drove through the gardens, Liam saw lights flickering in the distant villa. A knot formed in his stomach. "Why are the lights still on?" he asked, the unspoken question being, "Is Cassandra back?" Haley, however, seemed unfazed. "The main lights are on 24/7. Only the bedroom lights are turned off." As she spoke, the car drew closer to the villa. Liam could see that the windows on the upper floor were, in fact, dark. He finally relaxed. Haley dropped him to the front door and drove off. Inside the villa, Maria, wrapped in a heavy coat, approached him, her eyes heavy with sleep. "Sir, you're back so late." Liam was genuinely touched that she had waited up for him. "Maria, why are you still awake? You don't have to wait for me." "Ms. Thorne's orders," Maria said, stifling a yawn with a smile. Splat. The warmth that had just filled Liam's heart instantly evaporated. Maria rubbed her hands together, her breath fogging in the cool air. "Sir, shall I prepare a late-night snack for you?" The last thing Liam wanted was to put her to more trouble. He shook his head. "No, Maria, please, go get some rest. I ate before I came back. I'm just going to wash up and go to sleep." "Very well." Maria nodded gratefully, watched him head up the stairs, and then went to her own quarters. Liam ascended the long, curving staircase to the second floor. But when he pushed open the door to his room, he froze. There, lounging on the sofa behind the coffee table, was Cassandra Thorne. She was dressed in a white silk nightgown, an old, heavy-looking English novel resting on her lap. Her long, pale legs were crossed elegantly as she coolly turned a page. The warm, yellow lamplight cast a glow around her, making her look like a goddess, holy, noble, and terrifying. The serene, yet horrifying, scene sent a shiver down Liam's spine. "You're back." Her icy voice echoed softly in the bedroom, making Liam flinch. He never would have imagined that Cassandra, who had been gone for days, would be back tonight. Of course, she had him under surveillance. She probably knew everything that had happened tonight. His throat tightened. He dreaded what punishment she had in store. But then, the images of the bustling city streets, of that taste of freedom, flashed through his mind, and a strange calm washed over him. What was there to be afraid of? He was a grown man. Was he going to let her eat him alive? He managed a calm, "Yeah," and was about to say he'd sleep on the couch when Cassandra spoke first. "Go take a shower." She didn't even look up, just issued the command from her throne on the sofa. A shower was exactly what Liam wanted. He headed straight for the bathroom, without a word. At least the bathroom had a door, a space that could be separated, giving him a moment to prepare himself. He shut the bathroom door and locked it from the inside. He stripped off his clothes and turned on the faucet. The warm water cascaded over him, washing away the day's fatigue. He showered quickly, finishing in less than 10 minutes. Wrapping a robe around himself, he didn't rush out. Instead, he pressed his ear to the door, listening. The bedroom outside was eerily silent. You could have heard a pin drop. It was getting late. He figured Cassandra must be ready for bed. Still, just to be safe, he decided to wait a little longer. But before he could even stand up straight, a key slid into the lock from the other side. Liam's heart sank. Before he could react, he heard a soft click. The door swung open. Cassandra stood there, cool and imperious. The steam from his shower still hung in the air, fogging his thoughts. He felt disoriented. "Finished so soon?" she asked, her voice as cold as ice as she looked up at him. The chill inner tone snapped him back to his senses. "It's just a shower," he retorted, his voice hoarse. "How long is it supposed to take?" Cassandra's dark eyes fell to his hands. "Unsatisfactory," she stated flatly. Liam stared. "What's unsatisfactory?" Ignoring his question, Cassandra leaned a shoulder languidly against the doorframe and commanded, "Wash again." Liam blinked. What? He had already used soap from head to toe. What more was there to wash? And besides, how he showered was his business. What did it have to do with her? Her demand was absurd. He wasn't going to indulge her. "I'm done, and I'm tired. I'm going to sleep." Liam refused. It was ridiculous. He wasn't her property. He wasn't going to let her dictate every little thing. He started to move past her. But in the next second, Cassandra's sharp voice cut through the air again. "You do well to remember whose territory you're on. You think I want to be here?" Cassandra remained unhurried, crossing her arms over her chest. It was a beautiful sight, but Liam was in no mood to appreciate it. She was blocking the doorway, and to get out, he'd have to physically push her aside. The fearless look on her face told him she had a backup plan. He was visibly fighting the urge to shove her out of the way. A small smile played on Cassandra's lips. "Go get the brush from under the sink," she ordered coolly, her tone leaving no doubt that she expected him to obey. Liam's fist clenched. He fought to control his rising anger. Don't you have hands? He bit out. Get it yourself. Ah, so his claws have grown back. The smile on Cassandra's face widened, though it didn't reach her eyes. She looked at him with a cold, mocking amusement. You seem to have made some friends these past few days. The implication was clear. She was talking about Leo and Chloe. Damn it. He knew he shouldn't have gotten close to anyone. He just couldn't figure out. Did this woman not have a job? They're just colleagues, Liam denied immediately. We've spoken a few times. That hardly makes us friends. Is that so? Cassandra raised an eyebrow, her smile turning predatory. She lifted a hand, admiring her own perfectly manicured nails. I'm thinking Zenith Corp could use some downsizing, she said conversationally. What do you think? She wasn't asking for his opinion. Liam knew that in this economy, the job was hard enough, and getting fired from a titan like Zenith Corp will be a black mark no other company would touch. If they lost their jobs just for talking to him, who in the company would ever dare speak to him again? He wanted freedom, yes, but he never wanted to be an object of universal fear and avoidance. Liam's jaw tightened. He was silent for a moment before asking, what do you want? Simple. Cassandra's eyes glittered, her smile widening. Hands behind your back. Turn around. Just that? Liam's eye twitched. He didn't believe for a second that she would let him off so easily, but he would do it on one condition. He had to make it clear. I won't talk to them again. He seized the opportunity to tell her this was a one-time thing. If he tried to use this threat again, he wouldn't play along. Cassandra merely raised an eyebrow, tracing a lazy circle in the air with her fingertip. Silently, Liam turned around, putting his hands behind his back as she ordered. The next second, an ice-sharp sensation bloomed on his wrists. Wait, this feeling was... Click! The cold, crisp sound of metal locking echoed behind him. He struggled, but with his hands cuffed behind his back, he had no leverage. He forced himself to stay calm, his eyes landing on a paperclip sitting by the sink. What are you doing? He asked. You know perfectly well. Her voice was glacial, her softly parted lips hiding a gathering storm. What do I know? Liam shot back, feigning confusion. He eyed the paperclip, taking a slow step backward. I don't know what you're talking about. I took a shower. Are you insane? He took 2 steps back. She took 2 steps forward, closing the distance. Did I give you permission to touch another woman? The baseless accusation made Liam snap. Who did I touch? I just went out for a drink. His voice trailed off as the image of him carrying Chloe into the hotel flashed in his mind. Seriously? That's what this is about. His tone shifted. Wait a minute. Who I touch is none of your damn business. Excellent. She smirked and pulled a steel wool cleaning pad from a drawer beneath the sink. It seems you still haven't learned your place. She delivered the line with icy finality, then yanked on the cuffs, forcing him to face away from her. Liam had just realized what she intended to do when a searing pain shot through him. Hiss! Hiss! She was scrubbing his cuffed hands with the coarse steel wool, dragging it across his palms again and again. He spun around, using the motion to snatch the paperclip from the counter. Ignoring the excruciating pain in his hands, he roared, What the hell is wrong with you? Who I carry has nothing to do with you. Cassandra hadn't expected such a violent reaction. No one in her life had ever dared to lay a hand on her. Her pride was clearly wounded. Liam, gritting his teeth against the 1,000 tiny needles of pain in his hands, fumbled with the paperclip, desperately trying to find the keyhole in the cuffs. After a few agonizing seconds, he heard a tiny click. He immediately wrenched his hands free and lunged, grabbing Cassandra by the shoulders. A flash of genuine shock crossed her cold face. She hadn't expected him to escape. You're a psycho, Liam snarled, but as he moved to overpower her, a sharp, debilitating pain shot through his groin. He instinctively let go, doubling over. The next second, a powerful blow struck the back of his head, and his vision went black. In the last moment before he lost consciousness, he saw Cassandra's face, flushed and proud, her red lips bitten tight, and in her eyes, a glimmer of something he had never seen before, vulnerability. When he came to, it was the stinging in his palms that woke him. The warm, yellow lamp was still on in the room. The heavy curtains were drawn, making it impossible to tell if it was day or night. He felt utterly exhausted. He heard the door open. Cassandra, now changed into a clean, snow-white silk pajama set, walked toward him. Liam's hands and neck were numb with pain, but when he saw the first aid kit in her hands, he felt a flicker of relief. She still wore that same look of untouchable arrogance, her lips pressed into a thin line. She placed the kit on the nightstand, opened it, and expertly took out a tube of ointment. Liam thought she was about to continue her punishment for hurting her earlier and instinctively tried to sit up, but she pressed him back down with a hand on his shoulder. "Don't move. I'm putting medicine on it," she said, offering a rare explanation. Liam saw that it was in fact an antiseptic cream for wounds, and his body relaxed. Silently, Cassandra unscrewed the cap and squeezed a large dollop of the ointment onto his raw skin, her movements rough. "Ow, that hurts," Liam hissed, grimacing. "You're just now realizing that." Cassandra's touch didn't soften as she used a cotton swab to spread the ointment. "Good. I hope the pain helps you remember this lesson. You're not allowed to touch anyone but me." The pain was so intense Liam nearly thrashed on the bed, but it only lasted for a moment. Whatever was in the ointment, it worked fast. A cooling sensation soon spread over his hands. He was too tired to argue with her. "That's not for you to decide," he muttered. As if she were used to his defiance, Cassandra replied coolly, "You can try me." Like hell he would. Liam just pouted and said nothing more. Seeing him fall silent, Cassandra glanced at him with an air of smug superiority, her hands continuing to apply the medicine. "Do you have any idea what a privilege you're being afforded right now?" Liam didn't answer, simply turning his head to the side. His submission pleased her immensely. "That's better," she said, a triumphant curl on her lips as the pressure of her hands eased. "If you had just been like this from the start, none of this would have happened." "This is insane." Liam was so angry he wanted to punch her, but looking at that flawless, beautiful face and feeling the throbbing pain in his palms, he couldn't bring himself to lift his arm. He couldn't resist a verbal jab, though. "Then how about you stop spying on me?" To his utter shock, she said, "Fine." Liam's exhaustion vanished, replaced by a surge of pure elation. His eyes lit up as he looked at her, but a second later, the light dimmed. "TCH, you're just messing with me again, aren't you? You can stop with the jokes. It's a waste of time." He slumped back against the headboard, adopting an air of complete indifference. Unexpectedly, Cassandra replied, "I'm not in the mood to joke. I'll have them pulled back starting tomorrow." "You're serious?" Liam shot up, his voice filled with a desperate need for confirmation. Cassandra didn't answer, instead gracefully packing up the first aid kit. Since she'd said it, it had to be true. A wave of exhilaration washed over Liam. The excitement was a better painkiller than any medicine. His body didn't even hurt anymore. After closing the kit, Cassandra left the room. He had half expected her to sleep here. Liam let out a breath of relief. He looked down at his bandaged hands and smirked. She had clearly never bandaged anyone before. Her technique was terrible, but the thought of her promise to call off her watchdogs filled him with an indescribable sense of freedom. The room returned to its quiet stillness, and a wave of drowsiness washed over him. His eyelids grew heavy. With some effort, he managed to slide under the covers and, within moments, fell fast asleep. Meanwhile, in her own room, Cassandra sat on the sofa, her eyes half closed, replaying the scene in the bathroom. It was a feeling she had never experienced before. He was like a time bomb, constantly keeping her on edge. She didn't know where she'd found the patience to go and tend to his wounds herself. This man was too special. In just a few days, he had given her an experience unlike any other. She found herself looking forward to whatever unpredictable thing Liam would do next. Liam had the best sleep he'd had in a long time. When he woke up, the warm, yellow light was still on, the curtains were still drawn, and the room was dim and quiet. He fumbled for his phone on the nightstand. The pain in his hands had subsided. He glanced at the time. It was already past 2 in the afternoon. He had truly slept his fill. He noticed a notification for a blocked message and tapped on it. It was from Jessica. "Liam, what happened with my brother was a misunderstanding. Can you let me explain? You blocked me, and I can't add you back or call you. Liam, can you please add me? I miss you." Liam's lips twitched as he read the last part. Where did she get the nerve? She had practically spat those venomous words in his face, and now she wanted to explain? Explain that while they were dating, she was also stringing along some other guy? If he hadn't been kicked out by the Hamiltons, he'd probably still be in the dark, wearing the world's biggest pair of horns. Her audacity was truly something else. An image of her face flashed in his mind, and he felt nothing, not even disgust. He just wondered what he ever saw in her, how he could have been her devoted doormat for so long. He didn't bother replying. It was in his block list, out of sight, out of mind. He didn't linger in bed. He got up, washed his face, and went downstairs. In the living room, Maria was waiting for him with a smile. "Sir, are you ready for your meal?" "Yes, thank you, Maria." Liam nodded, not standing on ceremony. Maria went to the kitchen to prepare his food. Liam, with nothing to do, glanced around the living room. There was no sign of Cassandra. A few minutes later, as Maria brought out the dishes, he asked casually, "Where is your boss?" "Ms. Thorne left early this morning." Then, As if remembering something, Maria pulled a small medicine box from a drawer. Ms. Thorne left this for you. Your anti-inflammatory medication for today. So, she remembered. Liam nodded slightly and took the box. He was surprised that after their late-night ordeal, Cassandra hadn't slept in. He picked up his chopsticks and started eating. Your boss is certainly diligent, he remarked offhandedly. Maria smiled. Ms. Thorne has never slept in. No matter how late she goes to bed, she's up at 7 a.m. sharp every day. Liam paused. Even on weekends and holidays? Yes, Maria nodded, her face filled with pride. Ms. Thorne has immense responsibilities and a great deal of work. Sometimes she'll spend 2 days straight just reviewing documents. Cassandra's self-discipline was beyond what Liam could have imagined. It made sense. The Thorne family might be powerful, but the problems they faced were equally massive. A single misstep could have cascading consequences, and there was no room for error in her work. This was exactly why he wanted nothing to do with a family like that. It was too much pressure, too exhausting. But as he thought about it, his mouth twitched in annoyance. And with all that, she still has time to make my life a living hell. He was lost in thought when his phone screen suddenly lit up with a new message. Mr. Liam, was it you who took me home yesterday? It was a message from Chloe Xia. Given what happened last night, Liam decided it was best to keep his distance. Yes, he replied with a single, cold word and nothing more. Chloe's reply came instantly. Thank you so much. I don't know what happened yesterday. I didn't think I was that drunk, but I guess I passed out on my way to the restroom. As soon as the message arrived, the typing bubble appeared again. Liam's mouth twitched. This girl was truly naive. She'd been knocked unconscious and thought she had just passed out from drinking. How could her family let someone so innocent move so far away for a job? Before he could finish his thought, another message popped up. To thank you, I'd like to treat you to dinner this afternoon. Liam had no desire to get any more involved with her. Even without Cassandra in the picture, they were just colleagues. There was no need to get too close. No thanks. He sent a reply and switched over to a short-form video app. In her hotel room, Chloe's fingers flew across her phone screen, typing and deleting several drafts. Ever since Liam had helped her out before, she had been paying attention to him. She was new to the company, and most of her colleagues, who barely knew her, implicitly treated her like an intern, saddling her with grunt work. The only person who really talked to her was Mark Warren, the older guard at the front gate. It was by sheer chance that Liam had helped her. After he'd solved her problem, she had finally taken a good look at him. He might just be a security guard, but his physique and his features were top tier. Standing in a crowd, he naturally drew the eye, a fact made even more obvious when he stood next to the slightly pudgy Leo. He looked like a leading man from a movie, cool, with chiseled features. His thin lips, often pressed into a firm line, combined with the high-collared sweaters he wore, gave him a formidable, almost untouchable aura. Over the past few days, she'd found Leo to be straightforward and friendly, but Liam always maintained a distant, unapproachable air. It was precisely this quality that made her find him so special, and her gaze often drifted toward him. He would just stand there, a cold expression on his face, as if nothing in the world could touch him. Faced with this perpetually low-pressure field of a man, Chloe didn't know what was wrong with her, but she was filled with a strange desire to see him smile. He's so handsome, she thought. He must look amazing when he smiles. She didn't know why, but sometimes, when she looked at his face for too long, she felt a sense of strange, comforting familiarity. Staring at Liam's terse reply, Chloe's hand trembled. Just as she was about to type another message, a call came through from her mother. She quickly answered. Chloe, honey, how's work? Are you settling in okay? Her mother, Carol Xia, asked from the other end. Work is great, Mom. You don't have to worry about me. Your daughter is very capable. Chloe chirped. Carol chuckled warmly. That's good, that's good. I was worried you wouldn't be used to being alone in the city. Do you have enough money? If not, just tell me. I'm working at your grandpa's factory now. I can make a little extra. I have enough. I have enough. Chloe insisted, then added with a pout. Mom, you're not fully recovered yet. Why are you working? I told you I could support you once I get my first real paycheck. Oh, sweetie, I'm a grown woman. I can't have you paying for me. Besides, it's just the two of us now, not counting your grandparents. I have to save up a little something for your dowry, don't I? I just graduated. I don't want to get married. Chloe pouted, but hearing her mother's happy laughter on the other end, she couldn't help but smile. Mom, did you call for a reason? The line went silent. After a moment, Carol's voice came back, strained, as if she were holding something back. At the end of this month, it's your brother's birthday. Chloe's smile vanished. She held the phone with both hands, her voice trembling. Is Is he going to be there? The silence on the other end was answer enough. I understand, Mom, Chloe said, her voice flat. I'll request a time off and come home. Her eyes darkened as she hung up the phone. Her fingers flew across the screen, opening her notes app and creating a new file. She counted on her fingers, her brow furrowed, then typed, celebrating my brother's birthday for the 23rd time. Happy birthday to the 25-year-old brother I've never met yet. Time slipped by. It was afternoon, and Liam, having finished his meal long ago, was bored, scrolling through his phone. The estate was too vast. Just standing at the villa's front door, the main gate was a speck in the distance. If he had a car, it might be different, but without one, he couldn't be bothered to wander the grounds. He went upstairs, curled up in bed, and watched a show. The tension that had been wound tight in him for days finally slackened, and a deep weariness crept into his bones. He drifted off to sleep without even realizing it. He slept through dinner, waking up once to check his phone before falling back into a deep slumber. It wasn't until the next morning that he slowly stirred awake. Nearly 2 full days of sleep had completely restored him. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt truly rested. He checked the time, 7:10 a.m. He got up, washed his face, and went downstairs. Maria had already instructed the staff to serve his breakfast. During the meal, he learned from Maria that Cassandra hadn't returned last night. He also found out that she usually stayed at her penthouse in the city and only came out to the manor for special reasons. He made a mental note to negotiate with Cassandra at some point. He could find a place in the city, too. The daily commute from here was a 2-hour round trip. After breakfast, Hilly was already waiting outside. Liam got in the car and went to work as usual. The moment he walked into the security office, Leo, who had arrived earlier, accosted him. You jerk. You just abandoned me at the office the other night. I had to take the bus home when I woke up. Is that any way to treat a friend? Liam's mouth twitched. You were passed out cold, he explained, and I don't know your address. That's no excuse to leave me at the office. What if someone with bad intentions had shown up? Leo said, hugging himself with a look of mock terror. Liam fought to keep a straight face. Looking at the big guy, he doubted anyone would be desperate enough to bother him. He had already decided to keep his distance from them, so he didn't reply. Fortunately, Leo was assigned to a different patrol route that morning, so there was no opportunity for conversation. Time flew by, and soon it was noon. Just as Liam was leaving the security office with his lunchbox, he saw Chloe. She was wearing a standard-issue business suit that looked completely out of place with her sweet, innocent face, and she was limping towards him, one painful step at a time. Liam's first instinct was to pretend he didn't see her, but she was heading straight for him. When she spotted him, a weak smile broke through her pale, pained expression. Liam, Chloe called out, waving. There was no escape. They were surrounded by people coming and going. He couldn't just ignore her. He stopped and waited as she hobbled over to him. When she finally reached him, her face crumpled with relief and misery. Liam, can you help me get home? She pointed down at her twisted foot. Only then did Liam notice that the heel of her right pump had snapped off, and the sole was peeling away from the shoe, hanging precariously from her pale ankle. It was hard to imagine how she had made it all the way from her office to the main entrance. Your ankle looks badly sprained, he said in a low voice. You need to go to a hospital. I'll call you an Uber. Faced with this girl, a good head and a half shorter than him, who had limped all this way to ask for his help with such a pathetic look on her face, he couldn't bring himself to say no. As if she rarely heard such words of concern, Chloe shook her head, her wide, watery eyes misting over. I don't want to go to the hospital, she mumbled, staring at her toes, her voice catching. She looked like a lost, abandoned puppy, especially in the oversized uniform that made her look like a child playing dress-up in her parents' clothes. Liam found it impossible to refuse. He sighed and extended his elbow toward her. Lean on me. I'll walk you to the bus stop. Instantly, Chloe's eyes lit up. The walkover had been agony, but seeing Liam's gesture, she quickly grabbed onto the sleeve of his jacket with both hands. And so, supporting the limping girl, they walked for what felt like an eternity until they finally reached the bus stop. It was lunchtime, a short break, and since Zenith Corp had its own extensive cafeteria, the bus stop was nearly deserted. You can wait for the bus here. I'm heading back to the office, Liam said, ready to make his escape. But Chloe's grip on his sleeve tightened. Liam, if you're going to help all the way. Please, just take me home. Her round eyes were filled with such earnest pleading that Liam's resolve wavered. He sighed. I have to be back at work by 3. He really didn't want to get involved, and he wanted to put some distance between himself and Chloe. But we'll make it. Chloe's eyes blinked rapidly. The apartment I'm renting is just a few blocks from the office. It's only 3 stops on a bus. Liam was silent. She laid it all out. If he refused now, he would be a real jerk. Finally, he nodded. Fine, but I'm dropping you at your door and coming straight back. Okay. Chloe beamed, excitedly hugging his arm. Thank you, Liam. I knew you were the best. Feeling the firm grip on his arm, Liam's mouth twitched. It was a good thing Cassandra had called off her spies yesterday. If they had seen this, he couldn't imagine what kind of torture she would have dreamed up for him. A few minutes later, the bus arrived. Liam helped her on board, and they found a pair of seats in the back. It was the middle of the day in a suburban office park, so the bus was nearly empty. As the bus started moving, Chloe sat with her hands in her lap, fidgeting and occasionally stealing glances at Liam. It was Liam's first time on a bus in this area. He watched the streetscape fly by outside the window, and old memories flooded his mind. The last time he'd ridden a bus was in high school. Back then, the Hamiltons weren't rich. The whole family, David, Sandra, and their 4 kids, lived off a small convenience store they ran. Money was tight, but life was stable. But after he went to college and his first startup began to take off, their attitude changed. At first, they just asked him to help buy a car or a house. Then they started asking about his profits. Before long, it became about the whole family getting shares, about contracts and ownership, until Jason came back, and their attitude shifted completely. Liam knew they were just using him, but they had raised him, provided food and clothing. He didn't want to fight over the money. Problems that could be solved with money weren't real problems. He didn't hate them. He just felt nothing for them anymore. Thinking about it now, the business plans he had set in motion before he left were probably nearing their end. All the networking and personnel management required constant upkeep. With Jason's personality, if they really did hand the company over to him, it wouldn't be long before it ran into serious trouble. But none of that was his problem anymore. He was pulled from his thoughts by Chloe's voice. He turned his head and saw her looking at him timidly. What is it? He asked. Chloe fidgeted with her fingers, looking anxious. Liam, do you hate me? Liam was taken aback. He hadn't expected a question like that. Chloe's eyes welled with hurt. She looked down and mumbled, I just feel like you don't really want to talk to me. She wasn't wrong. The closer anyone got to him, the more Cassandra would torment them. Before, Liam might not have believed it, but now, that crazy woman's depravity had exceeded his wildest imagination. He was still wearing gloves, and the faint, phantom pain in his palms was a constant reminder. Rejecting a girl, especially one as sweet as Chloe, felt wrong. But for the sake of her job, Liam forced himself to be cruel. We're just colleagues. His cold words were like a dagger to Chloe's heart. Her eyes filled with tears, her lip trembled, and she argued, but I always thought of you as a big brother. Liam didn't speak. He didn't know what to say. Chloe pressed on. I just started at the company, not even a month ago. I don't have any friends in New York. I was so happy I met you guys. I thought we were friends now. That's what you thought, Liam replied mercilessly, his voice like ice. In this world, no one is your friend except the people you share blood with. As the words left his mouth, he saw the raw hurt in Chloe's eyes, and he felt an unexpected pang of guilt. He felt he'd been too harsh. So he added, the world is a complicated place. Don't trust people so easily. The first lesson in life is to learn how to protect yourself and love yourself. Chloe's heart, which had been aching from Liam's sharp words, suddenly lifted when she heard his last sentence. These were lessons not even her own mother had taught her. Growing up, her mother had been chronically ill. They lived in a rural town just outside of Boston, getting by with help from her grandparents. Her grandparents had to work at the local factory and didn't have much free time. So Chloe would rush home from school every day to take care of her mother, handling everything from bedpans to cleaning. From the age of 8, the weight of household chores had fallen on her shoulders, leaving no time for play. Because they were poor, she often felt self-conscious about her clothes and smell, and no one at school wanted to be her friend. That life had lasted for 10 long years. But she had an unyielding spirit, a fierce desire to change her fate, so she studied relentlessly. Maybe fate took pity on her, because after middle school, her mother's condition improved. She became more lucid and could speak again. It was only then that Chloe learned she had an older brother she'd never met, one who had been lost as a child. What surprised her even more was her mother's worldliness. She had been to big cities, seen so much, and would spend hours after school talking with Chloe about the world. She was no longer a lonely, withdrawn girl. A smile became a permanent fixture on her face. Sometimes she would fantasize about meeting her long-lost brother. She always imagined he must be a bit clumsy to have gotten lost for so long. Thinking of this, Chloe suddenly smiled. How could Liam possibly hate her? If he really did, why would he patiently tell her all these things? Thank you. Chloe's lips curved into a wide smile. She squeezed Liam's arm tightly and leaned forward. From now on, can I call you Brother Liam? Liam? Liam was speechless. He thought his words had sunk in, that she understood. But now, it seemed like their relationship had somehow gotten even closer. He had no idea what went on in that little head of hers, so he opted for silence. If you don't say anything, I'm taking that as a yes. Chloe said, beaming. Brother Liam, you should come over for a bit. I made you miss your lunch. I'll cook for you to make up for it. Liam's eye twitched. This girl was as persistent as a weed. No, the bus stop is coming up. I can drop you off and still make it back to the office in time. No. Chloe's grip on his sleeve tightened, her knuckles white. You have to let me make it up to you today. I never even thanked you for taking me to the hotel that night. Her grip was so strong, it was warping the fabric of his jacket. Liam knew he had lost this battle. When the bus stopped, he helped Chloe off. They walked down a winding path that led to a block of apartment buildings. The area around Zenith Corp was mostly suburban office parks, with several other companies headquartered nearby. The residential buildings were mainly occupied by people who worked in the area. The apartments weren't fancy, but they were more than enough for a single person. They took the elevator up to the 6th floor. At apartment 603, Chloe unlocked the door. The first thing he saw was a simple minimalist layout. The small, 200-square-foot studio could be taken in at a single glance. But it had everything a person needed: a desk, a bed, a small fridge, and a private bathroom. Chloe expertly hung her bag on a hook by the door and, smiling, pulled Liam inside. Brother Liam, have a seat. I'll see what I have in the fridge. She seemed to have completely forgotten about her injured foot. This girl has no sense of self-preservation, Liam thought, his mouth twitching. He took her by the shoulders and gently pushed her down onto the bed. Do you want to lose that foot? The sudden proximity to Liam's handsome, magnified face made Chloe's heart pound. Liam sighed, taking in the simple decor. You stay here. I'm going to run downstairs to buy some medical supplies. I'll grab you something to eat while I'm at it. Before Chloe could respond, Liam took her keys and left. Staring at his retreating back, Chloe's racing heart began to slow. He was being so good to her, even going out to buy her medicine and food. How could she ever have thought he disliked her? He was just a man of few words. In a rush of excitement, Chloe glanced over at the small line of underwear hanging to dry by the window. Her cheeks flushed red. Wincing in pain, she struggled to her feet and quickly gathered them up. A short while later, Liam returned. He put the container of food on her small table and handed her the medicine. Staring at her injured ankle, he was silent for a moment. That sprain looks pretty bad. You should really go to doctor. No, Chloe protested vehemently. A trip to the hospital is so expensive, and you have to register and wait forever. I'd die of boredom before my foot even got better. I'm not going. Liam had never met someone so stubborn. All right, then let me take a look, he sighed, crouching down. Chloe felt a large hand gently cup her ankle, while another carefully examined her foot. The slightly rough texture of his gloves brushed against her skin, sending a strange tingle from her soul all the way to her heart. She couldn't help but blush. After a thorough check, Liam let out a breath. Okay, it's just a sprain. I'll put some muscle rub on it. You just need to rest for a few days and not move around too much. He unscrewed a tube of icy hot and squeezed them onto his fingertips. If you can't walk in high heels, you shouldn't wear them. And the ones you bought are too small anyway. I figured if they were a little tight, they'd stretch out and I could wear them longer, Chloe mumbled, her face beat red. The next second, a cool, then warming sensation spread across her ankle. She didn't know what Liam was doing, but after just a few minutes of him rubbing it in, the pain began to fade. You got a job at Zenith Corp. The pay can't be that bad, Liam said as he worked. I'm on a 3-month probation period. I only make $4,000 a month, Chloe answered quietly. Her face felt like it was on fire. $4,000 isn't bad, Liam said, confused. You're on your own here, and the company provides a meal stipend. You shouldn't be spending that much. I have to send money to my mom. You send money to your mom? Liam paused, then asked, do you have younger siblings? No. Chloe shook her head, her usually cheerful voice now subdued. I only have one brother. But my mom needs money for her medical bills, so I've been working part-time and sending her money since college. Hearing this, Liam's head shot up. He never would have guessed that someone as cheerful as Chloe came from a single-parent home. But wait, didn't she have a brother? No matter how you looked at it, the responsibility of caring for their mother shouldn't fall entirely on her. Does your brother not have a job? He thought, and then asked it aloud. At his words, Chloe's expression darkened, a shadow of grief falling over her face. She fell silent. Maybe there was more to her family situation. It was never his place to pry into other people's family matters. Liam backed off. If you don't want to talk about it, That's fine. Forget I asked. Chloe panicked, as if afraid he'd misunderstand. No, it's not that I can't talk about it. She rushed to say. After a brief pause, she continued, my brother. He went missing when he was 1 year old. I've never met him. Went missing. A jolt went through Liam. Why did that sound so familiar? He looked up sharply, meeting Chloe's downcast eyes. What's his name? How'd he go missing? Where's your family from? The sudden barrage of questions left Chloe a little stunned. Is he concerned about me? She wondered. She didn't know, but after so many years of holding this secret, sharing it with someone other than her mother felt good, especially since that person was Liam, who had been so kind to her. She didn't hold back. I don't know his name. He was gone before I was born, and my mom never talked about it. We're from Quincy, just outside of Boston. What about your father? Have you ever met him? Liam didn't know why he was asking. It wasn't the right time for such a question, but the words tumbled out anyway. Fortunately, Chloe seemed used to it. He sends money to my mom every year, she said matter-of-factly, but she never accepts it. Oh, okay. Liam nodded. He knew that sometimes, after a marriage falls apart, the only thing connecting parents is their children. It wasn't uncommon. He didn't say any more. He took an ice pack from the plastic bag and carefully wrapped it around Chloe's ankle. Watching his focused, gentle movements, Chloe mumbled under her breath, Brother Liam, I wish you were my real brother. Her voice was quiet, but they were close enough for Liam to hear. His hand faltered. A look of weary resignation crossed his face. If he had a sister this naive and trusting, he'd probably have a constant headache. He finished bandaging her foot and placed it gently on a small stool. Don't go out for the next couple of days, he instructed. You should take time off from work. You can order food delivery. His words hit Chloe like a wave. Her nose tingled, and her eyes instantly reddened. It was as if years of pent-up grievances had finally found an outlet. A film of moisture clouded her big, bright eyes. She had been so foolish to wonder if Liam disliked her. He was so clearly concerned for her. She didn't offer any more words of thanks. Instead, like a well-behaved kitten, she nodded obediently. I will. Okay, I should get going. Eat your food while it's still warm, Liam said, gesturing to the container on the table before turning to leave. He had intended to draw a clear line with Chloe, but after hearing her story, he couldn't bring himself to do it. A girl from a background like hers should have been timid and insecure, but the Chloe he knew always had a vibrant smile on her face. And her smiles always reached her eye. They weren't fake. He just couldn't bring himself to say anything truly harsh to a girl with such a resilient, tenacious spirit. On the bus back to the office, a new thought sparked in Liam's mind. Maybe he should try to find his biological parents. He had tried before. After he built up the Hamilton's company, he used his connections to make inquiries, but the trail always went cold at the orphanage. The director there had only been able to tell him that he was brought in by a couple when he was 2 years old. After that, the Hamiltons had treated him well enough, and he got busy with work, so he let the idea go. After all, what was the point of finding parents who would abandon their 2-year-old son in an orphanage? But now, without the weight of work on his shoulders, he felt a flicker of desire to know. Why had they given him away? As he was thinking, his phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. He had already blocked everyone he needed to block, so without much thought, he answered. A familiar voice came through the line. Liam, how have you been? Liam froze. That voice. It was his second adoptive sister, Penelope Hamilton. Penelope had gone abroad for college right after high school and was constantly changing her number for some reason, so he had never saved it. He couldn't believe a number had slipped through the cracks. But the call was already connected. What do you want? He asked directly. On the other end, Penelope was clearly taken aback, surprised by his cold tone, but she didn't dwell on it. Liam, do you have any spare cash? I'm a little short on living expenses this month. Liam almost laughed out loud. Seriously? He'd been kicked out of the Hamilton family, and Penelope had the audacity to ask him for an allowance? Aren't the Hamiltons giving you money? Liam asked with a cynical smile. It's not that. Penelope, thinking he was concerned, rushed to explain. Jason said he'd transfer it to me, but it's already the middle of the month, and he's not answering my messages. I only have enough money for 2 more days, and the school said my tuition for this semester is overdue. Liam raised his eyebrows in genuine surprise. In the past, he would have transferred money to Penelope on the first of every month without fail. Her expenses for studying abroad were significant. $10,000 a month for living expenses alone, and he had always taken care of her tuition without her ever having to worry. He couldn't believe the Hamiltons had cut her off completely. But what did that have to do with him? Penelope, Liam said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. It seems you've forgotten. I'm not a part of the Hamilton family anymore. Being called by her full name by Liam for the first time was jarring. Penelope's heart sank. Liam, what's wrong with you? Why are you talking to me like that? She complained. I know what happened at home. Mom and Dad were a little harsh, but you shouldn't have been so rough with Jason. She was still hung up on that. A wave of disgust washed over Liam. Are you done? He snapped, his last shred of patience gone. Penelope, seemingly startled, fell silent. Liam continued. I am no longer a part of your family. I have no idea where you get the nerve to ask me for money. Don't call me again, or I'll report you for harassment. Penelope never imagined Liam could be so cruel. No, Liam, what's happened to you? You used to be. The past is the past. Liam cut her off, his voice like ice, before hanging up without another word. Listening to the dial tone, Penelope stood there, stunned. Liam had always been respectful and deferential toward her. Since she had left for school abroad, she had been lonely, but he would often message her with updates from home and had never let her worry about money. After the family drama a few weeks ago, she had sided with her family, feeling Liam had gone too far. Jason was her biological brother, after all, and seeing him in a hospital bed had made her angry. After visiting him, she had flown back to school. It was only when her academic advisor had asked about her tuition that she realized her account was empty. She had called Jason, who at first sent her a couple of $1,000s, but then claimed he was still getting the hang of the company and that funds were tight. That's when she realized she was broke and had instinctively called Liam. She just couldn't believe how heartless he had become. Indignant, Penelope dialed her older sister, Isabel. Isabel, did you ask? When am I getting my money? The school is already sending notices about my tuition. Isabel paused. Jason hasn't sent it to you yet. No, it's been days. The school said if I don't pay by the end of the month, they're going to kick me out. Penelope urged, her voice laced with panic. Okay, calm down, Isabel said quickly. The company is in the middle of a major transition, and Jason is new to all this. He's still learning the ropes. How much was your tuition for the year again? $23,000. That much? Isabel was shocked. She had no idea her sister's tuition was so expensive. Of course. Don't you remember, big sis? My grades weren't good enough, so we had to pay extra to get me in. Penelope reminded her. Isabel's lips tightened. It wasn't that she had forgotten. She had never known in the first place. Before, Liam had handled her sister's tuition and all the family's daily expenses. She just went to the office, drank tea, approved documents, and never had to worry about a thing. But now, forget it. Isabel shook her head. All right, I'll talk to Mom and Dad. We'll find the money for your tuition first. You just focus on your studies. Okay. Penelope finally breathed a sigh of relief. You have to be quick, Izzy. The school won't wait. I know. After hanging up, Isabel rubbed her temples, exhausted. On her desk was a massive stack of files from Hamilton Industries. Ever since Liam had left and Jason had been laid up in the hospital for over a week, all this work had fallen on her. She had been working overtime for 2 weeks straight. Before, she would just relax in her office, playing on her phone until it was time to go home. Liam would tell her where to sign, and she would just write her name. She had seen how quickly he reviewed these documents, how professionally he spoke with his assistants, and had never interfered. Only now, doing the work herself, did she realize that every contract had to be read page by page, that she had to deal with the company's daily trivialities, and that she had to hold board meetings twice a week. All of it had been dumped on her. If only Liam were here. Isabel massaged her temples, closing her eyes. Images of her time with Liam flashed in her mind. She'd be playing a video game, and he would stand behind her, massaging her shoulders, cheering her on. You're amazing, sis. Wow, a triple kill. My sister really is the best. You're so good at this. But now, big sis, have you looked over the contract yet? I'm meeting some friend for karaoke tonight, so I'll just sign it and go. Her thoughts were interrupted by Jason, who burst into the office. Seeing the bandage still wrapped around his head, Isabel felt a surge of resentment. You're still injured, and you're not resting? They're old classmates. Jason scratched his head, sensing her displeasure. His voice dropped. Big sis, I've never been to a karaoke place before. My friends invited me, so I thought I'd go check it out. He sounded so pitiful and forlorn, like an abandoned child. Isabel's heart softened, and an unexpected wave of sympathy washed over her. When they were kids, even though they didn't have much money, their parents ran a small shipping store, and they had never been deprived of entertainment. She didn't say any more. Fine, she sighed. Just be safe. You can sign the documents tomorrow. Okay, thanks, sis. Jason's face lit up, and he eagerly left the office. Isabel looked at the $50,000 she had managed to save in her personal account. With a heavy sigh, she transferred $30,000 to Penelope's account. Then, she picked up her phone and called her father, David Hamilton. Dad, have we finalized that contract with Zenith Corp from last month? On the other end, David was silent for a moment. Not yet. They said they'd contact us when they have news. Why? Is something wrong with the company? No, not exactly, Isabel said, telling him the truth. It's just that in preparation for that big Zenith deal, the company's cash flow has been cut by more than half of the past 2 months. If we don't get a confirmation soon, we should probably start taking on smaller orders. Don't worry yet. Let me make some calls. Zenith Tower penthouse office. Cassandra Thorne sat at her desk, dressed in a crisp white blouse, her long hair pulled back in a high ponytail. She looked regal and composed as she reviewed the documents before her. When her eyes landed on the name Hamilton Industries, she raised an eyebrow. Evelyn, she said into her speakerphone, that shipment for Zenith in the first half of the year. Have we signed a logistics company for it yet? On the computer screen, Evelyn Reed looked up from her work, thinking for a moment. We're deciding now, Ms. Thorne, she confirmed. New York has grown so fast these past few years, and a lot of new companies have popped up. The board's thinking is that we might want to try a new partner.